Hello, and welcome to The Fool and the Philosopher.
The Philosopher and the Fool.
See that Tower of Babel episode you did there? We had a comment on it saying, like, I have no idea what the strategy game is.
Yes.
Which is funny because we talk about game design on the show, right?
We talked about two different strategies.
Yeah, but we talk about game design in general, right?
Yeah.
And I think, like, that's just what we do. And if you're listening to people talking about game design, you wouldn't listen to someone talk about architecture if you don't know, like, Notre Dame or the Corinthian, whatever it's called. I don't know architecture. Yeah. The Colosseum. Like, you need to know the greats of architecture to discuss architecture.
Yeah.
You need to know the greats of literature to discuss literature, right? And I think gaming is a really interesting field because it's so time-based right now. Like, I think movies are still time-based as well, but they're getting less so, where there is the greats from the past, like The Godfather and Lord of the Rings and Citizen Kane, where the movie buffs will have watched those. But I think gaming right now is very generational, and so if you're 20 years old like our detractor is, you haven't played the previous generation of games.
I don't think he was a detractor. He seemed to say he likes listening to it.
Yeah, well, I think he was being sarcastic, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
It's hard to tell.
I didn't interpret it as sarcasm.
Yeah. Well, he's a very look, he's a funny guy.
Yeah, It's best not to interpret sarcasm unless someone leaves a sarcasm mark, which looks like a period with two question marks.
I mean, he could be legit. Like, actually, to be fair, it can be fun to hear two people talking about something you're just like, wow, they're passionate about this. That's fun. Yeah. So he could be, but the I wanted to talk about the generational thing more anyway, so use that as my springboard, whether he was sarcastic or not. Just the fact that he hasn't played it at all is actually quite, like, it makes sense, right? Like, it's a very popular game among a certain age group in a certain part of the world.
Yes.
But it's not exactly a super popular game to people who only play, like, the popular modern AAA game that comes out. Like if you go to GOG, which is the second biggest gaming store, I believe.
And the only other successful one.
Yes. Well, Epic Games is...
No. Epic Games doesn't make money. It's completely funded by the companies that run it.
Right, but it's around. Like, it's...
I'm saying, fine, profitable?
Yeah.
The only other profitable.
Yeah.
Because all the other stores struggle for profitability.
Yeah, like, the Humble store is profitable, I think.
Okay.
Like the Humble Bundle guys?
Yeah. They
were bought by Unity, I believe, but they're technically still around. But they're not really indie anymore, I'd say. But so GOG, Good Old Games, owned by CD Projekt. They are, I think, the second biggest. Epic's probably bigger just through funding, but GOG stands on its own. And actually, GOG is kind of the opposite of the Epic Games Store in that CD Projekt Red had a really bad time with Cyberpunk, and I think GOG was kind of keeping them afloat. But actually, I'm not sure because they've had troubles with GOG before, but it's still around anyways. And it's the most popular game on there, I'm pretty sure. Because, like, whenever you go to it, it's like bestsellers, and it's number one. Like, number 1, 2, or 3. Like,
Here's My Magic.
Yeah, Here's My Magic 3. Yeah. It's always there. So it is a popular game, obviously.
Yes.
But you just compare that to Steam's front page, where it's going to have, like, whatever AAA game just came out by whatever big studio's doing all the advertising. It's kind of the same thing with movies are an interesting one, where, like, there's indie movies, they exist, but you can find them on YouTube too sometimes, but it's very much like the theaters are what you see, and so that's what you buy. And that's kind of what most gamers are like. But the one that I don't know is, like, I think it's indie music. It's like, I don't even know where you go. Like, okay, I want to listen to some obscure thing that
a lot of Spotify now.
Okay. Yeah.
It used to be you would go to a music store, and you'd go to their indie section, and you'd, like, get the cassette, you get the mixtape, you'd get the CD, you'd get, like, they have 4 songs, it's kind of terrible, the sound quality's off.
And I guess, like, YouTube is another place for indie music, but I think most popular YouTube channels are doing covers. Like, like there's Lindsay Sterling, but she doesn't actually give me the feeling of indie. I feel like there's big money behind her. I could be wrong, but just the stuff she does, it feels like she's got some sponsors or something.
We are very happy to have 2 indie music guys, Adrian von Ziegler.
Oh, yeah.
And Vindsvept.
Yeah. Both, well, actually, we're sponsoring them, technically, right?
Yeah,
we're paying for their music.
Yeah, but we're very happy to have them.
Yeah, and Vindsvept actually gave us his blessing. Like, you talked to him briefly through chat, right? So Yeah, so he was...
And I've emailed with Adrian von Ziegler as well, and he also gave permission.
Yeah, and I mean, they do...
I mean, he gave permission for my YouTube channel, not this one.
Yeah, but yeah, no, so we've got 2 indie guys, and then... I think my favorite indie musician is probably, unfortunately, I can never pronounce or like whenever I try to type in his channel name, I always get it wrong. But I think it's Julian Shanara or Shanara. He does the Malazan Book of the Fallen music. Yeah. He also did the music for Falscar, and he has another song called Fire and Blood. He has one called Rallying Cry. He has one called Atlas. So those are, if you want to try to find them, type in Julian and then Malazan Book of the Fallen song or something like that. Or Chain of Dogs, he did one.
Beak.
He did Beak, which... I want to talk about the Beak song, actually. I'm just jumping all over the place here, okay?
Yep.
But Beak... So I think I told you about... Maybe it wasn't on the podcast, but I watched the Creature Commando animated series done by James Gunn, who is now in charge of DC's animated and non-animated series.
Yeah.
And there's a episode called Chasing Squirrels about this little demon called Commando Weasel or something.
Yeah.
And I said it was like the cheapest, like, we're going to cheat and not actually write anything of substance. We're just going to make, the animal was misunderstood and he looks like he's just chasing squirrels, but actually has this horrible nightmare about a very traumatic event in his life.
Yeah.
That's Beak. Like, it's so cheap, it's unearned. It's just like, I'm just going to add a character a chapter before he dies that is going to be super overpowered, and he's got brain damage, so that makes him more sad that he dies. And it's like, whoa, wow, that's so amazing. He was kicked in the head by a horse, and now he's like a superhero. Whoa, that's so cool. Like, it's the cheap, and there's people, they just lap it up. And, like, you look at the comments of the Beak music video, the song he did, and everyone's just like, oh, Beak, that was the saddest part of the book. It's the best part of the book. It's amazing. He was such a hero.
That book, that's the saddest part of that book
maybe
in particular.
Okay, maybe, I mean, the saddest part of the series happens in that book as well, doesn't it? So, yeah, which we won't spoil, but yeah. That was the book that he wrote while his dad died, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the Beak whole scene was just like...
It needed more build-up.
Like, if Bottles had died there...
Yeah.
Then it's like, whoa, because Bottle, he's very similar to Beak, and like I think what might have happened actually is he chickened out. Like he might have been planning that storyline for Bottle, and then he's like, no, Bottle's too cool, I can't just kill him off.
Bottle's too important as well.
Yeah, but because Bottle was the guy that was taught by his just like Beak, taught by his grandmother, just had weird hedge magic that wasn't real normal magic, but was actually far more powerful than he appeared. He's like a mini Quick Ben.
Yeah.
Like, they're the same character, really, in a lot of ways. The only difference, I think Beak can fully open his warrens, whereas Bottle can't, really. Bottle doesn't really use warrens so much, I guess.
Not get too technical on it, but Beak can only use warrens so much, so wizards can recharge.
Yeah.
Beak can't.
Yeah.
That's the main thing with Beak, is Beak can never recharge his magic where other wizards can.
He's burning candles instead of opening warrens.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was just, like... It would actually make a much better story, I think, if Bottle had died there instead. Yeah. And Beak didn't exist.
You built Beak up for a book before.
But the problem, even if like Beak was a character from book one, like Bottle was, they're so similar. Like they're almost the same character. Like except the only difference is Beak has like brain damage or Down syndrome or something like that. Like Beak just doesn't think normally, right? I don't think it's Down syndrome. I think he actually has brain damage, if I remember. Like, but I think. Anyways,
back to generational musics and concepts.
Well, I don't know. I think I need everyone to... Yeah. So if you're interested in game design whatsoever, you're interested in good games, do yourself a favor, go to Good Old Games and get Heroes of Might and Magic 3.
And 2. Yeah.
Well, I think 3 is the one most people will find to be the better game.
Yeah, probably.
I think 2 is also fantastic, and I don't know. It's a weird one. I always say I prefer 2.
Yeah. And
when I play 2, it feels so good, and then when I switch to 3 again, it feels so bland and dull. But I play a lot more of 3 than I play of 2. Yeah. So that says something about 3 right there.
Yes.
So, and I don't think 3 is bland and dull, it's just compared to 2.
Yeah. Well, on the generational thing, I was telling you about this a few days ago. I am trying to read a book, listen to a book on Audible, called Empire of Vampires.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
Yeah. And I have a bone to pick with that book. I have a bone to pick with modern writing in general, and YA novels. I don't know when it happened, what point it is, or if I've just been incredibly lucky, but most books that I choose to read have good writers writing them.
Yeah.
Like the top 99% of writers or whatever. So, or the top 1%, that's how you do that. Yeah. Like the books I read have the top 1% of writers. Even if like, there's some problems with like, what's that one book series that your friend likes that me and you are sort of like on, and like the wizards can like drain life force?
The Shadow of What Was Lost?
Yeah, Shadow of What Was Lost.
Yeah.
It's like, this book has a lot of problems. It's very YA. Like, it's super predictable what's going to happen. There's, like, some interesting moments. But one thing I will say for the book, well written. It's actually, like, the writers...
It takes, like, 10 times as long to get to the point as it needs to.
the writer can actually write.
Yeah, he can write.
And
Sort of.
Well, I'm getting to this. Okay. So your judgment is... Your judgment is weird because you read the, like, Silk Road books, so...
Yeah, Royal Road.
Royal Road, yeah. So, then there is...
That's because writing on a technical level is far less important than being good at writing, like, stories with meaning and plot, right?
I'm going to disagree with you on that. Okay. So, like, Tad Williams' book...
Tad Williams, yeah.
No, very boring.
Well, very slow. Yeah.
Yes. I really like them.
Yeah.
And Brandon Sanderson, I have sort of soured on his books. I don't know why, but I just can't bring myself to read them.
I think they feel very paint by the numbers corporate, sort of. I think that's probably what it is. And another problem is, it's not really Sanderson's fault, but because he's a very successful writer, and he is also a YouTuber who is vastly influential, he has reshaped the writing landscape, which means his work's almost pure derivative because he was so revolutionary, right? Yeah. So everyone's copying him, and so it feels like, oh, he's just doing the same old thing.
Unfortunately, he does my least favorite kind of magic.
Yeah, he does like the hard magic, which is just science by another name, basically.
Yes.
And I think the Soldier Sun series...
But it's boring hard science by another name. And what I mean by that is, there's different rules to physics in his world. It's basically how it works, and there's ways to access them. But then you go look at the Edge Chronicles, and there's different rules to physics in the world if you know how to access them. But it's not our world plus, it's the Edge.
Well, I think the other thing with the Edge is that's physics in their world, whereas Sanderson is saying magic, and how Sanderson envisions magic is basically an extra, like you said, our world plus. It's an extra element shoved into the world. Yeah. Like, in the Edge Chronicles, you could imagine a scientist coming up with a grand unification theory like the scientists in our world have been trying to do in physics, right? Yeah. So they're trying to unify gravity and electromagnetics, right? Yeah. And they're trying to use quantum mechanics to do so. And you could see that happen in the Edge Chronicles. Like, they could unify all the elements together. Whereas Brandon Sanderson, he's got these disparate elements just kind of shoved into the world. Like, here's magic, bam, bam. And lore-wise, I believe it is actually the souls of different gods on each planet that is just like, your magic is actually just tapping into the soul of some random god that went to your planet, right? That's basically the Cosmere lore.
Yeah. So, but anyways, so I use AI quite a bit, and I've looked at some AI writings. Like, people use AI to write stories. Different models write to different levels. I've played with Dungeon AI as well, which has gone a lot better than when it was first out. And I noticed patterns in how Dungeon AI writes. There are certain things it does which I absolutely hate whenever it does it.
It's not X, it's Y. That's a really cool
That's one of them. There's a few other... like, spoke softly than he intended to, or the words came out harder than were intended.
Yeah. They do a lot of cheap tricks. It's funny, though, because I've seen a lot of people get up in arms about this, and I myself really don't like it. But I took writing classes in university, right?
Yeah.
And the people that would go up and read their stuff in front of the class, and everyone would be like, whoa, amazing. They were doing that exact same thing. It's cheap, easy, looks good in the moment, but it gets very repetitive if that's all you do.
Yeah. And so the bloody Kingdom of the Vampire, Empire of Vampire, uses these elements in it. And it's driving me insane because they are terrible. I hate it so much, this cheap, easy to use writing. And like it's a lot of mixtures, but I was reading online of reviews of Empire of the Vampire, and Daniel Green, I didn't watch his video, but he says, oh, this book, why it works. And then I watched different videos like, I don't understand why so many people like this book. Like, all the booktubers are fawning over it, and he started talking about his problems with it. And I completely agreed with him. It's like, it's trying super hard to be edgy and adult, but it's like a 15-year-old wrote it or something. And there's just these writing tricks which are so 90%, so top 10%, and you're not getting into the top 5% using that 10% writing things, if you know what I mean.
Like, you're doing the thing everyone does that is bad, instead of doing the things that makes it great, sort of.
You're doing what works, which makes it readable slop for a non-book reader, or someone who reads too many books. I don't know, it's like, I feel like I'm just going to be arrogant here and say I'm better than everyone. I feel like I have a level of reading comprehension which is so high that certain writing tricks and certain things don't work on me.
And yet you watch anime.
I like the visuals.
Because my biggest problem with like all but like maybe 10 anime in total, and I don't even like most of that 10, is it's like they took an ad-lib sheet of like repeated tropes that are like
Okay.
boring and poorly paced, poorly thought out, just nothing happens, nothing of value is added to the collective conscience of the world, and it's just like there, and people just sit there and they watch it like that.
I like the visuals.
Yeah. So going on. So yeah, you think that you are superior to everyone else, and yet you will listen to this Empire of the Vampire instead of reading The First Law, which is one of the most fresh, innovative series that has been written in the last like 20 years.
Here's the thing with the Empire of Vampire, right?
Yeah.
Is I'm trying to listen to it because a friend of mine recommended, said that they liked it, and they were saying it's a bit. What drew me into it is they said it's a bit like Dracula. It's like inspired by Gothic vampires, and it has main character's a vampire hunter, and I actually kind of like the idea of like a vampire hunter main character. It's like Dracula Gothic vampires that are kind of scary, but they have a bunch of vampire weaknesses.
You know, there's a very well-written book who the main character is a vampire hunter. Like, famously well-written book. One of the most famous books in English literature.
Called Dracula?
Yeah.
Well, here, I haven't actually read Dracula.
Yeah.
But I have read the play for Dracula, which is basically all Dracula media is based on that play. And I've watched a lot of different Dracula movies.
Yeah.
And I've read the Wikipedia summary of it, of the book as well. And so I might get something out of reading Dracula, but I kind of know the story.
Yeah. No, I haven't read Dracula. I own Dracula. I want to read it at some point. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. Just have so many other books to read.
Dracula's...
I have to read all of Royal Road first.
Yeah. Dracula is a brilliant written book by Bram Stoker. Theoretically. The story's really good. There's a funny moment, actually. So in the second Hammer film movie of Dracula, when they asked Christopher Lee to be in it, something you'll notice if you watch the movie is he has no voice lines. He only ever hisses at the camera or grunts. And it's because they gave him the script. They said, these aren't Bram Stoker's words. You have to have Stoker. I refuse to do it if it's just your made-up lines. And so he didn't do any of Dracula's dialogue. But he's Dracula, so they had to keep him. And people loved him so much as Dracula, they signed him on for like another 5 movies. And he's like, oh, I really don't want to do this. I was like, think about all the people that'll be out of jobs if you refuse to be Dracula. He's like, fine, you'll get 5 more movies out of me, and then I will not do it anymore.
That's dirty. It's like threatening people. Oh, other people will lose their job.
That's cool. So, and unfortunately, what I've discovered, because I'm listening to it now on 2 times speed, because I'm having trouble with it. It's like, wait, this is a YA novel where he goes to vampire hunting school, which is a rip-off Kara Morn. And it's like the story starts like, it's interesting. He's in his prison and he's getting interviewed by a vampire about his life story. And it's like, it seemed to be actually kind of fast at the beginning. It's like, okay, this is only going to be a small part of the book. Then he's going to somehow break out. He's going to kill the vampires, and the story is actually going to be in the moment. But no, it's bloody, like, Witcher vampire hunter Kara Morn mixed with Name of the Wind, This Is Me Going to Magic School and My Life Story, mixed in with a bunch of swearing, and
can you think of a single...
He's a half vampire and it's super edgy. And it's like, oh, come on!
Can you think of a single book? Name of the Wind might be the only one, and even then I would say it's not that great. But like that section of the... Because it's Name of the Wind is like a half and half sort of story. It's like past and future. That takes place in like... That's about a magic school. Like, I can't think of a single good book that's about a magic school.
No, I can't either.
Like, now people will say Harry Potter, but Harry Potter's not about the magic school.
Like, bloody last book, he doesn't go to school.
Yeah, and the thing is, it doesn't even throw off the story because it's not about the magic school.
Yeah.
It's about wonder and discovery and adventure, like the whole time. The magic school just happens to be there.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need to go to the school. Like, it's...
Yeah.
It's not really...
And maybe it picks up and he leaves the school much sooner, but from one person said, like, half the book takes place on the 15-year-old character. And he has no character development basically from the age of 15 onwards.
I think it was actually in Worm, the final, like, quarter of Worm. There's a time skip of, like, 3 years. So Worm is, like, she's a criminal. She doesn't want to be a criminal. Her relationship with her father is falling apart. She's trying to repair it. It's not working. her life is falling apart from the stress. She doesn't know how she's supposed... Her boyfriend's a criminal, so she's like, how do I stay with him but also become a hero? Like, you know, there's all these problems going on. There's a time skip of like 3 years. She's now a member of the Wards, which are like Teen Titans, basically. Her relationship with her father is great, and she broke up with her boyfriend, and because she switched to the Wards. It's like every plot point that you had was in that time skip. And that last third when she's in the Wards, now you're in superhero high school. And it was so disappointing. I think he just wanted to be done writing it, so he was just like, I gotta skip to the end. I'll just...
Well, like... I actually have a bone to pick with the character reminiscing on their life story as well.
That's hard to do right.
It's hard to do right, and at some point, you have to have the story of the character that actually proceeds after the reminiscing.
There was a book, I can't remember what it was called. It was at the library for years, and I would try to read it a few times because the premise was super cool. It was about the invention of magic.
Yeah.
And it takes place in 2 times at the same time. So it takes place 500 years after magic's invented, and then it also takes place during the invention of magic.
Yeah.
And the problem was, you know, so it'd be like the future section. It's been like, wow, I can't believe this school has stood for 500 years. And then you go to the past, and it's like, oh no, will the school survive another day? And you're like, well, yeah. It survives 500 years. So there was no stakes. I was just like, I know what happens because you just told me what happened.
Yeah, it's like, and there's cool elements. Like the main character is basically like an atheist in a world where if you have a cross or a cross equivalent, it will make a vampire combust into fire. But for the world's being abandoned by God as well. So the cataclysm, the catalyst of the story is, it's sort of like a reflection of our own world, like alternative medieval Europe. And monsters are real, they're dangerous. And there is an order of people who hunt them called the Silver Saints. And then basically a second winter happens, where for some reason a dust cloud has filled the air, maybe a volcano erupted or something, and the sun has gone dark. And so there's only a very faint amount of light during the day, and it's dark during night. And because of this, vampires have become the most powerful thing on Earth because they can't be controlled by the sun anymore.
Isn't that just real history? Like, wasn't there in a time period where there was like 200 years of extreme cold, and there was there's like something called the Vampire Wars, where like there was vampires all throughout Europe. It was during the rule of Empress Maria Theresa.
Yeah.
And she had to like create the order of the Malefactors Malforum to like hunt down vampires, and like because they were just erupted in villages everywhere. Like, isn't that just real history?
Yeah, so it might be slightly inspired by that.
Yeah.
But I was kind of excited when the book first started. Like, there was still edginess, and it's like, okay, I will grit my teeth and push through this, because this is a gruff character. He's established. I don't have to go through the whole story of him building himself up. Like, he's a vampire hunter, and the growth of this story, his character development, isn't going to be a young man growing into a man, is going to be a grizzled, cynical fighter who tried to win and failed, tried a second time and succeeded. And that is a story that speaks to me.
Yeah, that's a good idea for a story. That's like...
And it's a bloody YA novel of a kid growing up into a vampire hunter, and it's just like, oh, come on!
Actually,
Because here's my problem, is it's from him telling the perspective of the story. And I know how much of a loser he is right now. And so even if he's telling the story of him being a 15-year-old boy, I know his character development is going to lead him into being a loser. And if it's for the first half of the book, that's a lot of book to get through. If it's going to be for that whole book, I don't know if I can stomach it. And I'm only like 30, maybe an hour into the story, and I'm at 2 times speed. And
there's so many good books I can recommend to you.
Yeah. No, but see, the thing is, I have a problem with you recommending books, which is I want a character you don't know about who can beat up the characters you know about.
Well, here's the thing, though.
But no, that's silly, and I've gotten over that.
But the other thing about that is, the advantage there is I'll probably not remember the characters themselves that well, so you're all right.
No, I can just read the books you've read and then actually have.
And I haven't read yet the book with Pug the Magician in it yet. Because after I read that, you're not going to be able to read a book that has a character that can beat him up, I don't think.
We'll see.
There's a point from the series that I know about where he like moves the moon in this, like he moves it to like block an asteroid or something. Like it's like a kid's book or something. Yeah. But he's like very famously quite powerful as a wizard, like higher than Randolph Rohr sort of thing.
I'll just read some Indian books.
Yeah, there you go. Or some crazy cultivator novel, something.
Yeah.
It's a lot of buy-in because you have to understand cultivation to really get a start on it. But I've seen it used now like I've only read one cultivation book, and apparently the book I read that I got all my information from, it's called Sky Pride.
Yeah.
Apparently it's meant to be a satire or parody of like Shinsia novels.
Yeah.
But it's so good, and I didn't know it was a parody because I'd never read them.
Yeah.
So I was just like, this book's amazing, and I wonder if it comes to a point where a genre becomes so tropey and so overplayed that a satire is like just refreshing and interesting, and like you just reading it, this is good.
Yeah.
Like Sherlock Holmes was a satire, right?
Yeah.
And it's great.
Well, so apparently the three major media Asian companies, which are China, Korea, and Japan, all have their slop they put out.
Yeah.
So Japan is Isekai Slop, China is Cultivation Slop, and Korea, I think, is called Dungeon Slop.
And that's just like the Tower of God style?
Tower of God, dungeons arise, people go into them, people going into dungeons.
Yeah. What was the Tale of William O? It's a story about, like, same thing. There's dungeons. Like, the entire world is a dungeon. You ascend the levels of the dungeon. But it's another story. It's interesting because every chapter starts with, like, you're saying how it's so annoying, like, this character that's built up. And then every chapter starts with, like, the legend of William O. And so it's like, it's Chuck Norris things, basically, right? Well,
this book, this Empire of Empire, if it had started with him being a young boy, and he grows up into a horrible grizzled man who's broken, and then he unbreaks himself, like Rand, I wouldn't mind reading that. It's just, I have nothing to look forward to right now.
Yeah. Or another series that kind of does that is The Assassin's Apprentice, where he he doesn't really ever become awful, but he definitely has ups and downs. Right?
Like, one of the big things, and it's a huge problem, which I think might be one of the reasons why the book's taking so long to write, Doors of Stone, because it's meant to be the final book in the series, or the trilogy.
Of Tad Williams?
Yeah, not Ted Williams. The Name of the Wind.
Yeah.
Doors of Stone. Well, I think it's one of the problems with it is we have a broken world, and a writer comes to interview Quoth about his life story, but we get glimpses of scenes of Quoth dealing with things, and it's suggested that Quoth's actions led to the end of the world. Now, the third book has to be about what he did to bring about the end of the world, and why he's a broken man living in the middle of nowhere with the Prince of the Fairies as his manservant. The problem with this is that's not an ending to a book.
No, it's a start.
That's the start. And if you try to write that story, it's like, wait a minute, it's taken me so long to write it, and this is the start of the story, and there's nothing actually satisfying about this. What I'm worth in my writing.
Well, the interesting thing, though, is Patrick Rothfuss has said he wrote all three books before he published the first one.
Yeah.
So in theory, he's already written Doors of Stone. He's just edited.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like 1,000,000 pages long, and he's trying to...
Maybe he's dealing with the Tad William problems.
Yeah. He's like, how can I make this one book? I have to...
Because it's like, despite my best efforts, I couldn't write a 3-book trilogy. It has to be 4 books.
Yeah, the 5th book in my 3-book trilogy.
Well, it's like the 4th book in his 3-book trilogy. Like the second one, it's like, good God, I am happy that this was 3 books.
Yeah.
Because this wasn't possible. And he missed 2 things. Like, he missed 2 things. It's like, wait, you missed those. Did I, like, fall asleep while listening to this at some point? Or, no, I looked up. He completely forgot about these details. And it's like, fair enough. He had 50 loose ends to tie together.
Yeah.
Like, if you wanted someone to be able to finish Lost, it would have to be a writer like Tad Williams. Because you're on the second book. You finished the second book, right?
Yeah.
And there's, like, so many strands.
Yeah.
It's like, he's one of the few authors who can actually do it.
Kind of, Brandon Sanderson, to be fair to him, I think can do that sort of thing too. He's quite good at that. Like Wheel of Time, he had an impossible task, and he managed to write the last book of Wheel of Time in only 3 books.
Yes. Yes, and he gave it a very satisfying.
Yeah, no, he did an amazing job. That's probably one of the
best books he's written.
I think that's one of the best endings to any book I've ever read. I'm trying to think of a more satisfying book ending.
The end of The Son of the Black Sword.
I actually
left me like, whoa, this is an ending that I have troubles with. Like the Son of the Black Sword ending, I have troubles with. Did you finish the Books of Babel?
No.
Okay.
The end to Changes, like the Dresden Files.
Yeah.
At the end of Changes, I thought that was the last book in the series, and I was satisfied with it. I was like, you know what? That's a good ending. Even though
12 months then blew your mind. And...
Well, there's a bunch of books after Changes, right? There was Skin Game, there was Peace Talks, Battlegrounds, and 12 Months has come after it since. And maybe one more in this as well. I'm not sure. But no, the 12 Months, it's not like a super satisfying ending. It's just really good. And it's like the perfect ending. It's different. It's the best. It's like the perfect ending he could have written.
Yeah.
But in terms of just sheer like, wow, I'm done with the series. I can put it away fully satisfied, right?
Yeah.
Wheel of Time, amazing job.
Yeah.
But I thought Changes also kind of did that because they did the Sherlock Holmes thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like you just kill off the main character in a really cool way, and you're done. And you're like, okay, fair enough. But in both cases, they brought him back.
And Malazan's ending.
Malazan's ending is cool. I actually think the theme of the entire series is stupid. Like not the theme that it has. The theme that it has is great. Yeah. That through trying you achieve virtue and you move towards God. I think that's great. But the message he was trying to say, which was have sympathy for others, is a terrible message. Because sympathy, you don't want to achieve sympathy. Yeah. Like you can achieve empathy, but to defeat this is going to be
major spoilers.
This is going to be spoilers for the end of the Malazan Book of the Fallen. Yeah. However, even if you know the end of the Malazan Book of the Fallen, I think I will say this, that the entire series is not about the ending. Like it's a bunch of books, it's a bunch of stories all in one, right? So but the main stories technically is about the crippled god's influence on the world and Tavor Paran defeating the crippled god. That is the actual core plot of Malazan Book of the Fallen is Tavor Paran defeating the crippled god.
Tavare. Her name's Tavare.
Okay. Tavor. And I don't think there's a pronunciation guide anywhere.
There is at the end.
So Tavor in order to remove the crippled god's influence from the world, decides that she will show the crippled god that humans can suffer as the crippled god has suffered. And so she condemns like 10,000 people to their deaths through torture, essentially. Yeah. And then the crippled god is like, oh, they care about me. And then he leaves. And it's like, that's the most narcissistic possible moral to any story ever. Like, it's awful. Mm-hmm. It's actually a horrible moral of the story. And the author of the series, Stephen Erickson, has said, my Malazan Book of the Fallen was a 3 million word, I think, or was it a third of a million or was it 3 million? Anyways, long plea for people I think he said empathy, for people to have empathy, to care about each other. That is not the way you do it. You do not cut yourself so you show others that you care that they bleed.
So, from what I understand, and I've read a few of his other books, is he is incredibly knowledgeable in mythology and old world and artifacts.
I think he's also a very good writer.
Yes, but from this, you can't help but write down the most important stories. If you're someone who studies this, you can't help but write down the most important stories. And I think his prequel series, the
Forge of Darkness?
Forge of Darkness might show this as well, as this very heavy concept. Yeah. But then his other stories, so the
Witness trilogy.
Yeah, Witness. I've only read the first book. I have issues with it. Rejoice, A Knife to the Heart.
No, that one I really don't like.
His parody of Star Trek.
The Something Baby. What's it called?
Something Child.
Oh yeah, the
Wondering Child.
The Weeping, the Laughing.
I think it's Wondering Child.
Or is it Laughing?
No, it's not.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, his terrible Star Trek books.
Yeah, I think that he, like the Malazan, I think literally is one of those books where the author wrote a story, and I think I have to give more credit to Ice than I thought I had to.
Well, I think, like, Ice, there's two authors for Malazan. Although if you're here, you shouldn't be if you don't know that, because I just told you this is massive spoilers. But I think the thing with Ice, if you read his books, I think their themes are a lot stronger than Eric's themes, but the writing is worse.
Yes. So I think Ice has a very large influence on Malazan. Yeah. And I think that Malazan is a story that was written...
It contains the strength of both guys.
It contains the strength of both men. And even if Erickson was a plea for compassion, this actual story, the actual ending of the crippled god, so that's what happens there. But the actual ending and the actual story...
Which is quite good with Fiddler.
Yeah, there's two stories in it. Yeah. You might even recognize the third, but I recognize two of them. Is a person suffering will lash out and make the whole world suffer. And, like, misery loves company. That is what the crippled god is. Yeah. And the way to solve that isn't, like, her plan was, like, kind of brutal. Yeah. But the actual thing is, and if you harness suffering, you can destroy the world. And to stop evil from harnessing suffering, you must be willing to sacrifice all that you can to stop that. Yeah. And doing that sacrifice, it's not trying to show the crippled... It's sort of like two things at once. Is they tried to show the crippled god compassion, but their main goal was to stop the world from ending. And then they show the crippled god compassion, and that saves him. Because giving a suffering person compassion is good. And that's actually an important thing.
But the problem with the crippled god, to me, is that he doesn't deserve compassion. And that's...
Well, he doesn't understand.
But I guess you can...
The crippled god is literally a toddler.
Yeah, but it's like a narcissist is a toddler too, right? And you give a narcissist compassion, all you're doing is hurting yourself, right? Now, the crippled god actually does heal from this compassion because he learned. Yeah. But that's a crazy gamble to put on, like, the most powerful god on your planet, right? Like he's not even from your universe. He's an alien god.
Yeah, and then the other ending, or the other theme, the whole story, what the actual story is about, is what it means to be a soldier.
Yeah.
And beyond that, what it means to be a soldier and remain a good man despite being a soldier.
Or what it means to be a soldier and keep on living. Like, I think Fiddler, in the end, he still has a life. Like, he doesn't just... It's not over once you've saved... Like, Fiddler saved the world back when he founded the Bridge Burns, right?
Yeah.
And then he was called back for the war on Darujistan, even though he's now in his 50s. And then he loses everything, and he keeps on fighting.
Yeah.
And then he walks through the desert of Rariku.
Yeah.
And he's called on to be a hero again. And then he's called on to be a hero again.
And saves the crippled god.
And save the crippled god. And then it's not just like, okay, the story ends. It's then him, like, another 50 years later when he's like 150 or something.
Yeah.
And he's just an old fisherman.
Yeah.
And he's still living his life. He still has a life to live. He still finds value and meaning in the world. Because he's the first character introduced... Well, he's the second, I guess, technically. Character introduced in the entire series.
Yeah.
The first is Ganus Paran. And then it's Fiddler and Whiskey Jack.
Yeah.
And the last character in the book is also Fiddler.
Yes.
So Fiddler, I think, is the main character of the Malazan, you could say. And you see him from a very young man when he was first a bridge burner, all the way until he's ancient beyond belief.
Yeah.
And he's still...
A man trying to do what's right.
Yeah, and he's still a man trying to just live his life and live a simple life. Like, the whole time, he's just trying to live a simple life, basically, and do what he... But he's also not trying to hide his own abilities, right? Like, he's trying to live a simple life, but he's also trying to give the world what virtue he can offer, and he happens to be one of the most competent men in history.
Yeah.
So he has a lot to offer.
Yeah. No, I think there definitely is the message of compassion, but there's a secondary message, which is...
I mean, because it's not propaganda, there's a lot of messages, right?
Yeah, and one of the other...
And that is something Eriksson's the guy that... That quote I always quote about propaganda, that was Eriksson.
Yeah.
Like, Eriksson hates propaganda.
Yeah, so that is one point I do disagree with you on, partly with the crippled god, is he's a toddler that doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And you have your own battles and perceptions that are shaped by things.
Yeah.
And it's literally, I'm in pain, I'm in pain, I'm in pain. And Tavaret is saying, we're here for you.
Yeah.
It's just really upsetting how she has to do it, that we're here for you. Because really, she's trying to get to his heart. Like, here, I can reshape it to you, is she's trying to get to his heart, and the road to his heart sucks. And there has to be a lot of stuff going on while she's trying to get to his heart. And she's not trying to make all our soldiers suffer. That wasn't the goal. She wasn't trying to say, hey, we suffered too. She just wanted to get to his heart. And the road to his heart turned out to be hell.
I think if Tavaret hadn't walked through the Desert of Glass, or if the Desert of Glass had been the only way to get to the crippled, and the whole reason Tavaret sent out with the army was to protect the crippled god from the Forquerel Asile, then I would have preferred everything she did. Like, if her goal was to defend the crippled god rather than to invoke sympathy with the crippled god, I think that would have been a much better way to do it. And I mean, to be fair to Eriksson, Tavaret's second command basically thought the same thing. Like, she was like, Tavaret, this is evil what you're doing. Like, this is messed up. The Tavaret's Valkyrie lesbian lover thing, whatever she was, she did not approve of the plan.
No. And neither did Fiddler.
Yeah, because it was a very... And the...
And her plan relied weirdly on Stormy and the other guy.
Like the other fists that had different armies, right? That were like sailing through
Stormy, he went and killed the leader of the Forquerel Asile along with Hood. Stormy and Gessler.
Yeah.
And Hood went up that tower.
Yeah.
Like, Tavaret didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But that was needed. And the story there, if we look at Stormy and... Is his friend's name Gessler? Yeah, Stormy and Gessler. Their story is a different... they were looking for the crippled god's tongue, right? I think.
I don't remember anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I think his tongue was at the top of the tower.
Like in the Horcrux.
Kind of, yeah. And so their thing was... These are two men who have died, come back to life, become gods, rejected being God, become gods again, and we need to stop evil. That is their whole thing, is we are going to go stop evil.
What was their...
And they die for it. But their deaths gave Hood enough time to save the day.
What was their thing? They were, because they were a part, like the Napan was part of them as well. They were a group they were like a group of Napan. Were they bridge burners?
They were bridge burners
because they all were killed when the emperor was assassinated, right? Like every single one of them died when the emperor was assassinated.
They were bridge burners, but they were also the first adjunct and the second command in that. Yeah. They were the second command and admiral.
Yeah, the admiral, second command, his
high fist.
Yeah, because they all died, except it turns out like none of them died. They all had an excuse. Like they're like the Napan drowned. The Napan could have swam across the ocean.
It's not he could have swam across it. He could have swam under the ocean.
Yeah.
While holding his breath in one go.
Yeah. It's like, I don't think he drowned.
Yes.
Yeah. It's like in Canada these days where it's like, oh, you got to get your guns for the registry. Oh, I lost them in a boating accident. You know, that's the classic thing in Canada. Where it's like, oh, lost in a boating accident, sorry.
Yeah, but I fear with books in general, like, so this is a relatively newer book. I fear, like, maybe I will have to go with your book recommendations as long as they're not Royal Road.
Yeah.
Because I don't like reading trash books.
Yeah, no, it's
and I have to listen to them on audiobook.
Yeah, so it's slower.
Which is slower, and I can speed it up at least. Like, I can listen to 2 times speed. I ended up finishing Atlas Shrugged at, like, 2.5 times speed.
Yeah, sometimes I do that when I'm reading.
Because
I just start, like, skipping pages. I'm like, every other page, I get the gist of it.
Yeah, because it is just... It's brutal to get through, and, like, credits are cheaper. I think a credit on Audible is $7, and you can buy any book for a credit. And there's this kind of weird thing, which is you can only buy new credits once you run out of credits, and it's kind of like a disgusting marketing thing they did, which is you used to just be able to buy as many credits as you like, but now you have to, like, refresh them and buy a certain amount.
Right.
Kind of hate that Audible. Go back to being able to just buy credits.
Yeah.
Because it's basically the same thing. It's just marketing to deceive people into buying your books for like $20 or $40 instead of using a credit system.
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing that game companies do where you buy a currency that is never quite perfect for the things you want to purchase, so you have to buy a bit more than you...
No, credits are brilliant. Like, credits are really well done. It's just you can't buy them outright anymore, and I hate that.
Yeah.
But, like, it's an investment. I don't want to waste it, sort of, like, because it takes a bit of time to understand you won't like a book. And this is a one book in, like, a trilogy. And so if I get through the book, it's like, I don't want to listen to the rest of the series. Like, for the Shadow of What Was Lost. It's like, I listened to the first book. Yeah, I think I'm done. And that was a decision which was kind of hard because I did do the first book.
I'd say that's one of the advantages of Royal Road, is it's teaching me how to give up on a book, because it is a very difficult thing to do. Like, it's very hard to halfway through just be like, you know what, no, I'm not going to read this anymore. Because you don't want to be a quitter. No, you don't. Nobody wants to be a quitter, right? But sometimes you're like, this isn't worth my time. There's better things I could be doing. It's the same thing, I think, for me.
And the problem with Val's is you have to get about halfway through the third book to realize it's not for you.
Well, it's for me, I think it's the same thing with video games, where I think even more with video games, because there's so much learning that happens when you read a video game. I mean, Malazan's like a video game, actually, in that you have you're thrown in headfirst. There's a ton of learning to do before you can start reading it.
Yeah.
And that's the same with, like, all video games. So, for example, Europa Universalis, you play it for 10 hours, and you're like, do I dislike this game, or do I just not understand it yet? And do I have to play it more? And so for me, it's very difficult to give up on video games, because there's always that feeling of, like, maybe I just don't understand it yet. Because there's some amazing games, like Europa Universalis, where once it clicks, or Dominions is another one, which is even harder, I think, to learn. And Dwarf Fortress, where once it clicks, you're like, oh, this is a great game. But it takes so long to click that it feels like, oh, I don't really like this, until you get to that point.
Yeah.
Now, the very best game design, I think, are games that are very complex in depth, but you can get into them right away. And like Mario, I think, is the perfect example of that.
Half-Life 1.
Half-Life does a pretty good job of it too. Although, that said, Half-Life is a bit less so, I'd say, in a way, because a first-person shooter actually has quite complex controls. It's just those controls for gamers are, like, ubiquitous. But I think if someone who hadn't played video games before, you stuck them on Half-Life 1, they'd be like, how do I move? How do I look around? How do I shoot? But with Mario, they can just be like, oh, that did so. Okay. And
well, that is the interesting thing, actually, even as well, is an investment into, like, the term normie.
Yeah.
Is, there's a movie going to be coming out, which is, The Odyssey.
Yeah.
And one of the big points of contention right now is the Lastragosians versus the soldiers of the Odyssey. And so the Lastragosians are cannibal giants of Sicily.
Yeah.
They're Stone Age cannibal giants of Sicily. And they basically are these, I think they're about 9 foot tall men who are basically naked wielding clubs. And in the story, when the soldiers encounter them, part of the cool part of, what's his name? of the Odyssey. Odysseus is fighting. Yes.
What's the name of the...
What's the name of the guy? What's the name of the guy who did the Odyssey? Odysseus.
Yeah.
So one of the cool things about is he's got trained civilized men.
Yeah.
And so they're attacked by these giants who are overwhelmingly strong, and it's one of those cool things of the Roman legion fighting a giant, or we have the more modern stories of the soldiers in Pakistan fighting giants.
Yeah.
Is you have the supernatural, unstoppable monster from the dark past of humanity versus modern men with modern tactics and weapons.
Yeah.
And so Odysseus' men can brace their shields together and lean on each other for support, and they can stab with their long spears. And then one of the Lacedaemonian giants will swing his club into their shield wall, and if that was against a normal individual fighter, that would crush him and send him flying and kill him instantly. For Odysseus' men, they get picked up and flung, but it's distributed across 5 men with their shields, and so they can get up again. And while that's happening, Odysseus can shoot it with his arrows. So, in Christopher Nolan's movie, the Lacedaemonians are in full plate steel or iron armor with like falchions, CGI monster men slaughtering his soldiers.
Yeah.
And people have said them having that technology is basically doing the Battle of Agincourt. And was it Henry at the Battle of Agincourt?
I'm not sure.
Yeah. But anyways, the British showing up with Abrams tanks.
Yeah.
And that would be more realistic technology leap-wise than giving the Lacedaemonians full plate armor in the Bronze Age. Like, the giving the Battle of Agincourt tanks is closer technologically.
Yeah.
Because this takes place in, I think it's like 1000 or 1500 BC.
Yeah, something like
But my point, I'm not getting to talk about this. The point is, the people who are fans of Odyssey, people who are fans of history, people who are fans of mythology, even people who like media, like the drinker, who's just a fan of media, might have problems, like looking at the trailers and ideas. They're going to have problems with Christopher Nolan's movie. Whereas other people are going to watch it and go, oh, that was fun. It wasn't great, but it had some fun action. It was interesting. It was like the Odyssey, the greatest story of all time.
Yeah.
Well, besides Lord of the Rings. And
well, the Iliad, you know.
Yeah,
Odyssey's the cash-in sequel.
Yeah.
They just wanted to make a bit of money off one of the side characters.
Yeah.
It's a spin-off.
But it is that case of people liking Empire the Vampire. It's like, buddy, people who don't know how to read enjoying this terrible book.
So
And back to your point of old versus new, what was that again? I'm really pissed off that I had a friend who sort of reads fantasy.
Yeah.
But it's like, really, this is the book you're liking right now? You think this book is good? Like,
So
part of the reason why I'm committed to reading it is so I can berate them for liking this stupid book. It's going to be like drinking poison the whole time so I can then spit in their face.
one of my assistants, she told me she's this huge... So one of my assistants told me she's this huge reader, and she also likes writing, and she's a massive fan of literature, and she loves the stories that literature brings to us and binds us together, and how mythology has so much depth. And I was like, that's amazing. What do you read? She's like, oh, I really like young adult novels. And I was like, she's young. Okay, fair enough. It's like, okay, fine. Which one? What do you like reading? She's like, I'm reading Percy Jackson and the Olympians right now. It's really, really good. And I had to, because there's a reflexive thing to be like, Percy Jackson, but actually Percy Jackson's pretty solid.
Okay. Here's what I'll say. Percy Jackson is actually well written.
Yeah.
The story is fun. The Egypt book is well written.
Yeah.
The story is fun. The Roman book, I actually really like the Roman
No,
books.
I like the Roman a lot.
I never read the Norse ones. I didn't keep going afterwards because he combined them, because it's just sort of like, I got to the conclusion of the Egypt books, or as far as they got. I finished Percy Jackson Olympians. Great ending. I love it. The Roman story is actually really fun.
Yeah.
It's like a different take. It's an interesting thing to do. He's a good start for mythology. I think he's also been a bane as well as a boon to mythology, because people think that mythology is the mythology of Percy Jackson Olympian.
And I think they understand it when
It is not at all. It's like, no, there's the monsters, there's the gods, there is Titan, there is Zeus.
Yeah.
It is not Zeus is the top of the gods, and then the Titans are a little bit stronger, but the gods' power friendship beat them.
I think he actually does a pretty good job of like showing all the different like mythos, right? Like here's this creature, here's that creature. So you get a big broad swath of everything that can occur. But the personalities of the gods, for instance. Now, I think he does address it in that the gods, because they exist now in America, especially, they actually adapt to how people think of them, and also they grow and change over time. So they become more mature,
Yeah.
basically, by the time they get to his series, in his series.
Yeah.
But he's done so much damage in the Hades department, because Hades is, in the old myths, Hades is not a good guy. But people think, now, there are some people who are actually a bit more well-read that will say, there's not that many negative stories about Hades. There's only a couple, right?
Yeah.
And that's because people were terrified of Hades. They didn't want to say anything negative about him. They're like, you do not mess with this guy. You don't tell a negative story about him. You be quiet. You go pick on someone who isn't as dangerous, like Ares or something. Like, leave Hades alone, or Zeus.
Yeah.
Someone who's...
Well, the other problem with Hades, I will give credence to this, is Hades has 3 different versions of Hades exist, actually. And in some of them, he is very scary. And others, he's scary, but he's also actually is a good husband despite everything.
Well, I mean, she basically kidnapped Persephone, like...
Well, no. So two of the main sources for Hades, he kidnapped Persephone.
Yeah.
And of those 2, one of the problems is Hades said, "Hey, Zeus, can I have a wife?"
Yeah.
And Zeus said, "Sure, have Persephone's." And Hades sees Persephone's, they actually fall in love. But Hades realized that Persephone's is going to leave him because the underworld sucks.
Yeah.
And so he imprisons her there.
Yeah. That's not exactly positive.
That's not positive. But the one problem with them is they also have bloody Zagreus, who's Jesus Christ.
Yeah. I think he might have come later, but...
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like the Tales of King Arthur.
Yeah.
Is you have the original tales, and then you have the further ones that the French writers wrote in, like, the 1800s.
And so the trembling aspen, like the tree,
Yeah.
the poplar tree.
Yeah.
Not willow, the poplar tree.
Yeah.
Do you know why it trembles?
Why?
So Hades was trying to rape this woman, and she was running from him. And so she cried out for safety, and so I think it might have been, like, Artemis or something, to save her, turned her into a poplar tree in order to save her, and she was trembling in fear, but Hades could no longer rape her. It's like, oh yeah, Hades is the best of the Olympic gods, such a good guy. I love him.
Look at him compared to all the others.
There's Hermes.
There's Hermes, Demetrius?
Demeter?
Demeter?
I wouldn't say so.
No.
You got Hermes, you got Hermes. Apollo is decent, I think. I think Apollo's solid.
Athena?
No.
No,
she's very vengeful. She made the Medusa.
She made the Medusa. She also put that one poor guy into the worst situation of his life.
Which one's that?
So the one man who was asked who's the most beautiful of us 3 goddesses?
Oh, yeah, Paris.
Aphrodite.
Athena and Hera.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for Paris.
Yeah.
It's like, he made the right choice.
Yeah. No, I would say that...
Yeah, Apollo's not too bad.
Now, if you go by the standards of the time, right? I think Poseidon, he's kind of like a harsh force of nature, but fair in a way. He's like Bug from Miles and Book of the Fallen.
Yes.
Like, he's cruel, but he's as cruel as the sea. He's indifferent. It's indifferent cruelty. It's just the way he is. I mean, like, he's the reason Odysseus has his whole journey, because he's a jerk. But he's not like...
Well, no, so actually, in the Odyssey, here's the interesting thing, is at the beginning of the Odyssey, the gods are in council. It's the judgment of Odysseus. And I think it is Hermes, or it might be Zeus, says, "Let it be known that this council believes that Odysseus is the wisest of all men." And the slaying of, is it Polemocles? The Cyclops.
Yeah, Polyphemus. Yeah.
Polyphemus is a very interesting story. So Odysseus and his men land on his island, and Polyphemus is meant to offer them sanctuary. He's meant to be a good man. However, instead, he imprisons them in his home and starts eating them, thus breaking the rules of hospitality. And so them killing him or blinding him is actually correct vengeance from the gods. So Odysseus became the god's hand in blinding him. And so...
But he's the son of Poseidon.
He's the son of Poseidon. But in Poseidon then cursing Odysseus, Poseidon commits the sin of Lucifer.
Oh, like rationality or arrogance?
Not hubris.
Hubris, yeah.
Because Odysseus was the god's tool to punish Polyphemus, and then Poseidon went against the god's will, even though he's a god, in punishing Odysseus for what he did.
Can an Olympian commit hubris?
He can commit it versus Zeus and his council.
It's just like, because like Hades and Poseidon and Zeus are like, they're the gods. They're...
You can commit it against the gods, even if you are one god. You can commit hubris against the gods as a singular god.
I guess, yeah. I wonder if that's more of a...
And so that's actually what the Council of the Gods is, and that's partly what the whole story is hubris committed by gods.
Another decent god is Heracles, actually. You know, the god of heroes.
Yeah.
Like, he's solid, I think. Hestia, I don't know anything negative about her. I don't really know much positive about her, but she's...
I mean, the god of the Forge, is he...
I'm pretty sure he's done some, like... Because he has anger issues, I think.
Yeah, he has a... What about Thanatos?
I don't know too much about him. I think he's kind of just like the will of Zeus.
Yeah.
What was the other one I was thinking might be decent?
Well, there's also... One of the problems with Hades is he's got combined with the god of treasure.
Plutus.
Yeah.
Dionysus is, depending on the telling, like, I mean, he's the god of madness, but he's
And
also...
dolphins.
Dolphins. But he's also,
Dolphins are evil.
That's one of those other things. Like, I think counterfactuals become memes that become reality.
Yeah.
Dolphins will drown and rape humans, right? But that doesn't mean all dolphins do it, and that doesn't mean all dolphins are evil, because there's also stories of dolphins saving people, fighting sharks, you know.
Yes.
So I think you can't...
Counterpoint to that, dolphins are such jerks that they'll save people from sharks because they think it's funny.
Possibly. I'm pretty
It's like the whales keeping
seals
safe from killer whales or sharks.
Yeah, I think they might just be trolling them. Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't think all dolphins are evil.
No. I think there is actually different variations of dolphin. They're like ravens. Like some ravens are jerks, some ravens are nice.
And I don't think like Churchill was all evil, and I don't think Stalin was all evil. Like these people, although those are different levels. I think Churchill was a better... I would rather have Churchill as my leader than Stalin.
Yes.
For sure. Although, it depends, because Stalin... Well, it depends on two levels, right? Stalin might have been more competent than Churchill, because the main thing I think that made Stalin worse was he was in power for a lot longer. Because Churchill was starting to do some pretty awful stuff while he was in power, but he got kicked out.
Yes.
Because he was starting to ruin the privacy of all people in Britain. He was like, soldier, police can enter your home at any time, demand ID, they can like arrest you for... Like, he was turning Britain into a police state.
Yeah, he was bringing Britain closer to modern Britain.
Yeah, he was just... But it was like even worse.
Yeah.
But now they're doing it slower. They learned their lesson. But I think...
you have to boil the frog. You can't throw it into the oil.
Yeah. So I think if Churchill had stayed in power, he might have been a pretty awful leader. However...
Oh, there's a good god. The god of the hearth.
Hestia. That's what...
Yeah. Hestia is good.
Well, I don't know if she's good or not. Like, I don't know much about her. Like, she's just there, as far as I'm aware.
And what about Hypnos?
I don't know.
The god of sleep and dreams. Actually, something really interesting I learned about the god of sleep and dreams. Because it's like, it's Janus and Hypnos, right?
There's 3 gods of dreams, I think.
Yeah, so it's Janus. Sorry, that's the two-faced god.
Yeah.
Janus is really cool, because Janus is the god of death.
It's god of doors.
Yeah.
And decisions.
Yes, but Janus is the god of death. However, he's not Thanatos. He isn't the Reaper. He is the moment you...
oh, right. He's like the instant.
Yes.
Yeah.
And is a very, like, there's a very cool thing of the temples of Janus, where basically you would put a body in a temple of Janus.
Yeah.
And then you take it out again really fast. And you put it into the temple of Hades.
And just like stop by Janus and then...
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and... I don't know, but I wonder if New Year's resolutions, because they happen in January, which is the month of decisions.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's where the tradition came about.
Maybe.
I think, but yeah, so I don't remember where the gods tied into, but talking about old media, new media.
We're talking about YA novels.
Right, yeah, and how Percy Jackson's like a decent...
Yes,
science.
I think the best YA novelist is Garth Nix.
Yeah, well, I recommended to her Garth Nix, because I think he is. But those are books like... Those books were written when I was 16 or so. So they're written long before... Like, they were written when she was a baby, right?
Yeah.
And now she's reading them. But with video games, a 16-year-old video game is... let's try to think of Skyrim. Wow.
Actually, on Skyrim, this is a weird thing. This is actually a reflectively really weird thing. So, you know Skyblivion?
Yeah.
And Skywin?
Yeah.
And Beyond Skyrim?
Yeah.
So those projects, I was like, years ago, I was like, oh, these are going to be super cool when they come out. And I sort of forgot about them. So basically, in like the next 3 years, all of them are going to be coming out. That's weird.
But those will be a time to tie it in again.
Yeah.
That you can... It's weird because people will be saying, this is, if you've never played Oblivion, if you've never played Morrowind, if you've never played Skyrim, now's your chance to jump in and experience it, like, in the best possible version, because it'll have all the engine advances of Skyrim, but with the storytelling of Oblivion or the world design of Morrowind. You can have all the advantages, right? But I think video games, the reason why they're outdated and why 20-year-olds haven't played Heroes of Might and Magic, in part, is because it's so heavily tied to technology right now.
Yes.
Like, movies used to be a little bit, but once sound came in, it was basically done. And then once color came in, movies, like, they haven't really advanced past them. Like, CGI, of course, has added stuff, but it's not nearly as much as sound and color. And I think sound was the main one. Like, you can watch a black and white movie, it's basically the same as a color movie.
There is a difference with a black and white movie, which is because they had to use such practical effects, is almost black and white movies were like theater plays, where you accept, like, your verisimilitude. You went in accepting that there are things we want to show in this movie, and we simply do not have the ability to make it look realistic. But this is part of the story. Like, in one of the first movies of Dracula, you can see the strings controlling the bat puppet. And if that was in a modern movie, it's like, that's terrible.
Have you seen...
But in that movie then, you're like, this is fine.
I think it's Superman 2 or 3 with Christopher Reeves. When he flies, or jumps, I guess, he turns, it's kind of like Mary Poppins. Yeah. He turns into like a 2D cartoon and then like moves across the screen and then he lands and he's him again. Yeah. And it's very, I don't know how, because it's all in one shot. Mm-hmm. So getting him from one spot to the other is pretty cool as a camera trick. But the animation in between is just like a 2D animation.
There used to be the old camera trick as well for Kamui Rider, which is he'd do his rider kick. And so the actor would get into position to get ready. And then they cut to him jumping off a trampoline high in the air. Yeah. And he'd do a front flip. And then they do another cut of him coming in and landing his kick on the villain. And then the villain go flying. And then they do another cut of they'd have the costume without the actor inside it for the villain. And they'd blow it up to show that his kick was so devastating they explode. Yeah. And that special effects that's what they had to work with.
But those hold up, and I think it's fairly easy. If you're a movie enjoyer, you like modern movies, you can go back and watch those with the same level of effort. Whereas I think a lot of video game enjoyers, let's say, think there's a much greater barrier to entry, and then they also don't know about them because video games, not only has the technology been tied so much to the development, but video games have grown so insanely fast. It's actually wrecking video game companies right now because what's going on in the AAA industry is they had a projected growth line that was fairly steady for like 20 years of just like, doubling every couple of years or going up 50%. Like they were just growing massively. But the problem is right now, everyone plays video games. It's like half the world's population plays video games or something. You can't grow anymore. The industry is saturated. There's just no more people to add to the market anymore. Yeah. So the projections don't work anymore. And so the companies can't do the strategy of like, just get more money, build even bigger games for even bigger. It doesn't work anymore. They've reached the limit. Yes. So I think that basically that goes to show how fast video games has grown, that they were basing their assumption on the fact that it would just keep growing and then it ended like within 20 years. So a game that was the most popular game of the year, maybe even of the decade, like let's say Ultima 7, or actually not Ultima games by that point weren't, but Ultima like I think 4 might have been like the most popular game of the year. There's nowadays, of all the people that play video games, hardly anyone has played Ultima 4, right? Because even though that was like the game, the amount of people that were playing, there was like, I think it was something like 1 million copies, and they were like, this game has sold better than like every other video game combined, basically. This is like the game. And then Wing Commander, around the time, I think it was like 1993 or something, was the best-selling game ever with like, 5 million copies. Have you ever even seen a Wing Commander in action? I think I might have, because there was a game my friend's older brother, who's like 10 years older, was playing. And I've never been quite sure what it was. That might have been Wing Commander. Yeah. But that game was so big that, and the sequel was even bigger, that the creator of that game is still getting handed money to this day for the most expensive video game ever, which is Star Citizen. Yeah. Which will someday come out and be the greatest game ever made, I'm sure. But
is that why people have faith in him?
Yeah, because every game he's made has been like the biggest hit ever. So, and like he's made these great games. Like he's a guy that just. But the thing about him was, so he Ultima and Wing Commander, that was the same company. That was Origin, which was bought by EA. Yeah. And what happened is interesting. Ultima kept adding more and more complex gameplay and depth and more complex themes and stories. Yeah. Wing Commander kept hiring more and more expensive actors. They had Mark Hamill be like one of the actors. So like, because it's a game about flying spaceships, right? Yeah. So they had Mark Hamill as like your Luke buddy that was like flying, which is, but at the time that was Luke Skywalker. So it's like, I get Luke Skywalker in the cockpit beside me and we're like flying. And so he was just like, we'll spend $1 million to make this game. Yeah. And we're going to have like the best special effects. We're going to build a studio with an actual spaceship that the actors sit inside and like you film them for the cutscenes sort of thing. So that was the route he went in. And unfortunately, in my mind, the Wing Commander strategy won and the Ultima strategy lost. Yeah. But That also means that it's
Well, I think actually in the end, Ultima won because Larian Studio is still making games.
that's
And Larian is basically the continuation of Ultima.
yeah. Although that said, Star Citizen has the most money of any video game ever put into it right now. So
Yeah.
eh,
Yeah.
so
I don't know if Star Citizen's winning. I think that's a bunch of losers who have been duped.
I don't think it's quite that. I don't think he's a scam or the creator. Like I really don't think he's a scammer. I think he's more of a Peter Molyneux character. I think like but not quite as bad. Like I think he has a dream, right? And whenever a new technology comes out, that's better than the old technology. He basically scraps whatever was made with the old technology so he can use the newer technology.
Look, I want there to be a good Dungeon Keeper 3.
But Peter Molyneux actually just came out with a new game. It's like another black and white, basically.
Yeah.
But just continue to defend Wind Commander. I actually saw a guy, it might have been Neril, I don't remember who the YouTuber was. He actually did like a review of every... Because Star Citizen is such a ridiculously large game. Right now it's actually released in multiple modules.
Yeah.
So you have like the FPS module, you have the spaceflight module, you have the planet walking around module. Like,
can't you like buy a spaceship for like $800?
I think it's like 15,000. You can buy them for a lot, or maybe it's 3,000. It's a lot, anyways. But he played it, and he was actually like the technical, maybe not prowess. Like it's not exactly optimized, but like the sheer technical scale and marvel of the game is insanely impressive. Like he was actually, because he was a big skeptic, and then he went in and played it, and he showed footage of him playing it, and he said this game is actually like every little vertical slice is actually amazing. It's just the optimization, putting it all together, and actually finishing it. That's like and also just the sheer amount of money that's being drained from people does put a sour taste in your mouth in a way too. Hopefully those people have the money to give, right? Like if it's like, you know, Notch, he was like, I'll give $1 million to Triumph. If they can make a cool game, nice. If they can't, whatever, you know? Like that sort of thing, that's fine.
In a better timeline, Notch would have bought Triumph instead of Paradox.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could have been that Leonard Sass just wanted to make the kind of game he did with number 4 as well. Like, maybe he was like, this is the game I want now.
Yeah.
I want to try my hand at a different game than an Age of Wonders game. But I have to call it Age of Wonders because that's what I'm known for.
Yeah.
But he could have done like, what was it called? Halo Wars?
Yeah.
Like where they made an RTS?
Yes. Or Warcraft versus World of Warcraft.
But he could have done like a Overlord Wars and then done like a different kind of 4X with the Overlord universe.
Yeah.
Which, although Overlord's a bit too silly for... but he could have done something like that, you know?
Yeah.
Or just started a new IP. But, you know, Paradox might not have given him the money for a new IP. They're like, why is that going to sell? Who even knows about Triumph in the first place? Like, you barely have an audience with Age of Wonders 3.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with... Yeah, so... But, yeah, so I think that even though... So it's very hard to know that, like, Matthew Matosis did a video about this where he said video games is unique because I think he's basically the top video game critic now that Total Biscuits. And Matthew Matosis said, I had the privilege, because he's about like 35 to 40, somewhere in there, of growing up in a time period where every landmark game that changed the industry and everyone draws upon, I have played. You can't do that in any other medium, any other media. Like, you cannot read every landmark book. You cannot watch every landmark. There's too many of them, too movies, right? But he said, I have played every game that has introduced a mechanic or has changed how people thought about it or created a genre. Like, you know, he's played Dune 2. He's played
Pong.
He's played Oddworld Adventures. He's played like all these weird little games, but he can play
Sacrifice.
Yeah, like you can play all of them, right?
Yeah.
He said, but that was the case until about like 2009 or something, right? Or whatever whatever year you might think it is. It's no longer possible. But it's still possible to pick the greats, right? Like you can play the Breath of the Wild and the what else is there? Age of Wonders 3. you can still play the best of the best. But you can no longer play every little indie innovation, and like there's too many now. So it's a lot harder to know about the greats. But I think Heroes of Might and Magic 3 and 2. Who gave the imagery? Maybe it was Matthew Matosis. Maybe it was me. I don't remember. But it was a musician, actually, I think. He was talking about Beethoven, I believe. Bach as well, but it was with Beethoven, I think, where he was saying, if you lived in Beethoven's time, and you lived in his city, like Vienna, I think it was, there was like 20 great musicians in the city, right? Yeah. And then Beethoven, they all died. 50 years passed. Yeah. You might have heard of like 4 of them, right? Like you're like Beethoven, his main rival, these other 2 guys, they're pretty solid. 100 years passed. You know about like the 2 main guys. Yeah. Another 100 years passed. You know about people from different cities now. You know about like, Beethoven, and then like Tchaikovsky over in Russia, right? Although that would be like several hundred years. But, you know,
Yeah.
and nowadays you have like just the best of the best. And it's kind of like if every musician who ever lived, their impact is a little mountain, right?
Yeah.
And they create these mountains. And they create their mountains at sea level. So you get like, today there's like, let's say 10,000 musicians. So there's 10,000 little mountains at sea level. But every year the sea level rises. And so if your mountain isn't tall enough, it just vanishes.
Yeah.
And then the new mountains will appear above the sea level because they always get created at sea level. But then they'll vanish. And you need to have a gigantic, like Beethoven, Mozart, Vivaldi, Bach style mountain in order for it not to get drowned out. And there are some weird cases, like Bach wasn't super famous in his time, but now he's considered the greatest musician ever. Like there are some weird cases where it comes up and down. I think there's probably going to be, like Prey is a video game that was not liked at all when it came out. And when I played it, I was like, how is this not considered like one of the best games ever made? Like, not because I actually liked it that much, but I've seen those lists. They have Half-Life 2 on them and stuff. This is like Half-Life 2 but better in every way. This game should be at the top of these lists, right? And I think I don't know what it is exactly, but there's some that just got passed by because video games grew so fast.
Yeah.
And so, and also there's some games that hold up, like they're not hard to play, right?
Yeah.
Like Here's Mind Magic. So the reason Here's Mind Magic, for anyone that hasn't played it, especially number 2 and 3, I think the rest of the series doesn't actually follow this rule, but Here's Mind Magic 2 and 3, the reason they were so popular, and to a small degree number 1, but the reason they're so popular is they were cheap games. Like they came out, they weren't that expensive.
Yeah.
They ran amazingly well on everything.
Yes.
They were super well optimized. They looked really good. And they were very easy to play, but they had an incredible depth to them.
Yes.
So they were like perfect at like every single metric you could measure a game on, basically. Which meant that, especially among poor people with weak computers, they sold like crazy. So Eastern Europe is basically the cult of Here's Mind Magic.
Yeah.
But they're games that, because they sold so well, because they were so easy to play, to this day, they're still easy to play. Like they run great. There is also mods like the HD mod, which makes them even easier to play. There's the Free Heroes mod, which makes Heroes to scale up to the resolution of whatever display you want.
Yeah.
But they're still easy to play to this day because they were so easy to play back in the day. And I think, like I've been playing, now I'm not sure about this one, but I played Disco Elysium, and we were talking about how sometimes you don't want to give up on something because you're like, I know this is good, but it's like, I don't know if it'll get good or if it'll get bad again. Like, right?
Yeah.
I gave up on Disco Elysium because I was like, the writing is really technically good, but the plot and the meaning behind it is I'm not really resonating with. And it's also a really fiddly, unfun game to play. And I was like, you know, maybe I'm just not in like CRPG mood. I started playing, or maybe I'm not in like a text-heavy mood at least, right? I started playing, because I was still looking for a game to play with one hand because I dislocated my shoulder. And I started playing Planescape Torment, which is basically the game that Disco Elysium is compared to like all the time. And Planescape Torment, it's so easy to parse what's going on. It's so easy to play. The reading is so carefree, you don't even realize you're doing it. Like, I think there's a difference, right? Disco Elysium's writing is so good, you notice it. You're like, wow, that's good writing, right? Planescape Torment's writing is so good, you don't notice it. You don't notice you've been reading. You're just playing the game. And then you're like, wait, I just read like 50 pages over there.
It's like Terry Pratchett.
Yeah, it's just like, you don't even notice that you've been reading. You're just like, I'm just playing a game. Whereas with Disco Elysium, you're like, no, I'm reading. It's cleverly written, it's well written, but you're reading, you feel it. But Planescape Torment, you're like, you don't feel it. It just passes. Like, I don't like reading in games. And Planescape Torment, the only time I started getting sick of the writing in Planescape Torment was when I was talking to a planeswalker, and he was describing the D&D lore for the planes, and I was like, holy cow, this is dense. This is ridiculous.
Yes.
But it's really interesting too because they've basically, and I don't know who did it. Maybe it was Ed Greenwood or something, or what's the R.A. Salvatore or something. It's like a mythology that makes sense, but it's their own thing. It's not 100% based on like any real world mythology.
I think it's mostly Ed Greenwood.
But it's actually like there's the prime material plane, which emanates from the core of creation. The prime material plane leaks into the outer planes, which are like this idea where concepts become reality, and that's where the gods are created, and the gods stay there because they're strongest there. But then the gods themselves, the influence of the gods, create the negative and positive planes, which are diametric poles to each other, which in turn create the outer planes, which are, and like there's...
And then there's the plane of order.
So the influence of the negative and positive planes creates order, neutrality, and chaos.
Yeah.
And then the interplay of chaos and order, they create like the elemental planes, and then like it's actually like fairly in depth. And
and then the denizens of each plane are also very interesting.
Yeah.
Like the plane of order is run by the monodrones.
It feels very much like someone created alchemy again. Like it's basically Paracelsus's or Calcus. Paracalcus is alchemy, but done by like someone else. Yeah. Or it's actually similar as well to there's a Russian book called The Rose of the World where he created a model for the universe from first principles, basically, which is like insane. It's like Kabbalistic model of the universe, but just some random crazy Russian guy.
Yeah, and so what's also interesting with these planes is space in the Planescape Torment sort of idea is what is that called? It's the void, basically.
Okay.
And so Mint's giant miniature space hamster that flies on a spaceship. There are literally ships that run off magic that fly in between dimensions. And
that's like their space travel.
Yes, and so you're like flying between the planes in the it's the astral sea,
right? And
that has space. It's basically the void.
There was also a section that didn't make sense to me because Planescape Torment takes place in the city of Sigil, which is like the
city of doors.
The city of doors at the center of the universe.
Yes.
On top of the infinite spire.
Yeah.
And basically any door in the universe leads to Sigil. However, Sigil is also called the cage because there's only one door that leads back the way you came.
Yes.
So it's very easy to get trapped in Sigil. But there's a part where you go to a bunkhouse and there's this crazy guy in the corner saying like, "Where's my fork? I need my fork. I can't go home without my fork." And everyone's like, "I'll ignore him. He's crazy." But I was thinking, wait a minute. The whole lore of Sigil is that any object and any combination of objects can create a portal, right?
Yeah.
He clearly needs a fork to get back to his home dimension. So I went and I found the fork and I gave it to him. And he opened a dimensional portal and he stepped through and he got back home. And I was like, how is that not like normal? That's weird for us, like in our world. But within the lore of the game, it's like, no, obviously the fork would be his path home.
Well, some of the travelers of Sigil just open doors and go through them.
Yeah.
And they're not concerned with the objects. They just will open a door and go through it.
Yeah, well, you can also do like gestures next to objects, or you can do like there's...
Well, so Planescape has one description of Sigil. Another one of it is, this is the terrifying one, is it's infinite streets with infinite walls, all with doors and windows. And if you turn down a street and you turn back again, it'll not be the same street you went through.
Yeah.
And so that is why it's the cage.
Yeah, because
It's because if you go through one door, that door will lead back to where you were, but you can never find your way to that door again.
And it's also...
And so you can choose to either try to find your way home and live in Sigil, or you can open a door and go through it.
And just live wherever you end up.
Yes.
Yeah. Which can be dangerous because, like the planeswalker you talk to, I had a ton of quests tied to him, and I couldn't find him because they're like, he's right there in the inn, and I would look and I was like, there's no one there. And his model is like translucent because he's only half there, so that's why I couldn't find him. Because he went to the plane of negativity, which destroys all that is.
Yeah.
But the only reason he was able to survive is because he was this massively experienced planeswalker. So he created an amulet of nothingness.
Yeah.
And because the only thing that can affect nothing is nothing, he was able to push away the nothing with nothing.
Yes.
It's like, well, that's not real logic. That's nonsense, not logic. But
yes.
But it's like, because nothing can affect nothing. So he made some nothing to take out the nothing. But it's also interesting because the Githyanki in Baldur's Gate 3 are awful, and they're like my least favorite like creatures that I've ever seen in D&D lore. And I'm like, this is just orcs with extra steps that suck, right? I was like, why did they do this? In Planescape Torment, the Githyanki are so cool. They're beings of pure mind that inhabit the plane of thought that can shape anything from the raw material of thought. And I guess they were eventually enslaved.
Yeah, they're enslaved by mind flayers.
Yeah.
And they live in colonies in the Astral Sea.
But like before they were enslaved, they're super cool because they basically can travel through the plane of thought and just create matter from nothing because they have power over it.
So that's the Githyanki. So when the Gith broke free, there are three Gith. There are the Githyanki, the Githzera, and the Gith something else.
Yeah.
And so there's the Githyanki, which are the awful pirates ruled by an immortal Lich Queen.
Yeah.
There is the Githzera, which are servants to a monk lord who basically try to study immortality and try to be better than everyone and try to achieve enlightenment through that. And then the third kind of Gith are the ones that are beings of pure mind, which most creatures drift through the astral sea in ships or move, because if you're out of the ship in the astral sea, you're immortal, you'll never starve to death, you don't need to sleep, but you go insane.
Yeah.
So third time Gith, I can't remember the name of, they're, when they're born, they take their babies and they chuck them into the sea.
It's like, deal with it.
And because they have nothing else to know, they just accept the fact that they're in the astral sea and that's their life.
but it's so like this is a value of Planescape, and this is why I think everyone should play Planescape Torment too, right? Because you've got like that lady who's like the poster child for Baldur's Gate 3. It's just annoying and ugly.
Yeah.
And then I have a companion. Well, I didn't realize you could get companions for a long time. So my main character got to like level, I think 6 through trial and error because I was doing all the quests with just 2 characters, like the 2 starting characters.
Yeah.
And then I discovered you can actually have people join your party. And so now...
So was you in Shadowheart?
No, in Planescape Torment. Yeah, no, in Planescape Torment.
Aren't the main characters you and the Skull?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're an immortal. So I just would like... I was just Zerg rushing everything to level up, basically, until I was strong enough. But eventually I got strong enough I could actually start fighting things. And then the Skull is actually just a very competent fighter. But what I would do is leave him behind, because if he dies, he's dead, right? So I would just go. But I eventually got this Gith, whatever, like the Mind Being companion. And when you meet him, he like, you don't just add people to your party, right? Like, he gives you like this philosophical quiz that's actually, you sit there and you're like, huh. Like, he's like, who are you? It's like, I don't know. You don't know yourself? Then how can you know anything? It's like, well, because you can still think things are real. It's like, if you have no idea where you're standing, how do you know where anything is in relation to you?
Oh, he might be a Gith, not a Gith as well. The problem with D&D is there's 3 different Giths from the original Dragon magazine. And the only one that's survived modern time were the Gith Yankee.
Okay. But you actually have like this like interesting Socrates style, like, the only thing I know is that I know nothing style debate with the guy.
Does he have 2 heads?
No.
Okay, then he's not one of the other kinds.
But the thing is, you say to him, like, then do you know yourself? And he goes, and he just stops and he goes, don't speak to me of this again. And you're just like, okay, fine. And then he joins and he's like, I would go with you so I can learn. And then he like just follows. It's like really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's that compared to like what you're telling me, the 3 Gith, the pirates. It's like, that's too much buy-in. I'm like, I don't want, that's just lore to be memorized, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this is like, wait a minute. Like when you're playing Planescape, you see these centaur creatures that speak in this very strange way, and they live among the trees. They remind me of the Harry Potter centaurs, weirdly. Yeah. But you talk to them and you're like, okay, I want to know more about the centaur thing. You talk to these Gith people that can shape matter from the essence of thought, and you're like, I want to know more about these people. You see these devil, and it's not because there's a ton of lore behind them. It's because, for instance, there's lesser fiends that wander through Sigil. Yeah. And you go over and talk to one of them, and it growls at you, and then more to the Skull, who knows way more, because the plot is that you don't know anything. Like,
wait a minute. Does Harry Dresden have Mort? Because it's not its name.
Oh, I see. Like Bob the Skull is like kind of like Mort. Maybe it's based
because Mort the Skull knows a ton of languages.
Yeah. Well, I think Mort. Yeah, I think he's just like he's been around for a while, right? Yeah. Like he's not actually a being of intellect. He's just a human.
I do wonder if I wonder if Bob's based off Mort.
Maybe. I think a skull being knowledge might also, because it's like the center of thought.
Well,
right?
That's the thing, is there's the black skull you can craft as a magic item in Dominions, and it gives you a research bonus.
Yeah, like I think just a skull being a source of knowledge is probably, because that's where the brain is, right? So it's kind of...
And then there's the servitors, which are skulls, which even in death they serve the Omniscient.
Yeah, so I think it's just the idea of knowledge. But maybe. But he says, oh, I wouldn't talk to that... those guys if I were you. And then you try to talk to again and it growls again. And he's like, no, you really don't want them to start talking to you. Just let's get out of here. And then if you talk to them again, because it's another great thing. In so many RPGs, you're afraid about your morality system and you're afraid to experiment. Yeah. In Planescape Torment, you're immortal.
You're a mortal condemned soul.
It's like if you get... Well, it's interesting because Baldur's Gate doesn't do this, but you have like your, chaotic neutral, chaotic good, true, evil, whatever. They actually change based on your actions in Planescape Torment. Yeah. Which I haven't... And also you can change your class. You can go to like an expert thief and be like, can you teach me how to be a thief? And he'll teach you how to be a thief. Because you're like a very powerful being. You're the immortal of the universe. You're the immortal. And you have lived so many lives. You know everything. You just need a little kickstart. Yeah. Right. But if you talk to them again, the fiend will attack you, and then they're very strong. They'll like tear you to pieces. And it, instead of being a bunch of lore, like what are these things, you start going, okay, how do I beat them? I'm curious. Why are they so angry all the time? Like you start thinking about them, right? It's not like, oh yeah, she's that thing because they escaped the mind flares and there was the pirates, but then they had rebelled against each other, and it's just like a very... Because I always thought I didn't like D&D lore because it's just a bunch of dense nonsense, right? Yeah. But Planescape Torment, at the very least, managed to make it a mythology that you buy into instantly because you're like, no, it makes sense. Like, you just appeared in this crazy, like, center of the universe place, and you're trying to figure it out. It's very cool. So, and it's not hard to play, is what I was getting at. Like, you just click where you want to move. You swap out your weapons when you want to switch your weapons. But what I'm not 100% sure on, if are if someone like a 20-year-old, a 17-year-old, were like play Planescape Torment, you'll love it, right?
It's hideous.
It's not terrible, but
The main character is hideous.
I mean, it's a very brown game. Like everything's brown.
He's blue.
But I mean, like all the colors in the game are like washed out and brown,
Yeah.
right? But no, I think the thing more is like I don't actually know if the control scheme is easy to use, or if I just played so much Baldur's Gate that it's like, well, obviously you do this, that, and the other thing, right? So that is the one thing. Casting spells and using items is kind of awkward. You have like this if you right click, you open like a radial menu, and then you choose what kind of thing you want to do, and if it's equipped in the right slot, then you can use it. So that might take a bit of use for some people, but it feels very simple to me to play, right? And I think
So on the old video games and controls not making sense, there's this old thing which are people saying it's not a real keyboard for gaming if you don't have a numpad. And then I saw a post recently, it's like, why would you use your numpad? All you need this, and it shows like the WASD to shift space.
Yeah.
It's like, you do realize that people used to move around using the numpad.
Yeah.
That's how you used to move around, is the arrow keys.
Well,
and then 7, 9, 1, and 3 were all rotates. And
yeah, for like dungeon crawlers and stuff.
yeah.
But I think the superior method actually is the V keys, which is whatever that key is. No, what is that supposed to be?
Don't know.
Okay. But JKL and the other one. M. Yeah, MJKL. So J is down, K is up.
Oh, I
M is
hate
left.
V keys.
No, V keys are amazing.
I hate V keys. I can never remember them.
Once you learn V keys, because then you're up right, down right, up left, down left. That's just you. That's just YUBN, right? It's so much better for your hands. Like if you play roguelikes where you're doing like tons and tons of like, you can play in roguelikes on a numpad. Yeah. Your hands will get sore. You play in V keys, you're fine. You can go all day, and it's so easy. Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah, but it's like numpads actually had old use that video games have moved away from.
And I think like part of playing old games, which makes it harder. Like if you try to play GoldenEye, people are like, "Oh, GoldenEye's so good. You got to play GoldenEye, right?" The controls are wacky because they tried to do twin stick shooter without twin sticks, and it's very confusing to play.
No, don't play GoldenEye. Play Moonfall or whatever it's called.
Oh,
Nightfall.
There's Moonraker and Nightfire. Yeah.
Like Nightfire. I think it's Nightfire. Does that have the grappling hooks?
No, that's the other. That's Moonraker, I think.
Okay, Moonraker.
Yeah.
Far funner multiplayer than GoldenEye. Better controls. Looks better. More heroes to choose from in the multiplayer.
I think
the quests, the campaign isn't as good, but the multiplayer is a lot better.
I think all three games actually have their place because
yeah, I think it has the best multiplayer.
Nightfire, like the actual campaign, super fun.
Yeah.
And also the multiplayer, it has like flyable little drone planes. Yeah. It has some cool gadgets. The Moonraker or whatever it was that came out on the GameCube. Yeah. That one, it has like mines, grappling hooks, jetpacks. Like it has some crazy cool
Oddjobs hat.
Yeah, it has. No, that's in Nightfall.
Okay.
Yeah, but it has some cool objects you can use. But then GoldenEye's just combat is so quick and snappy. It's actually very fun. Like, I really like GoldenEye's combat. And the maps, I think GoldenEye has the best maps.
Yes, it does. It has the best color.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, I think it does. And the map design is also much more interesting. Like, the multiplayer maps for Nightfire suck. Like, they're all just, like, dark cubes that you're stuck in. Like, it's boring. Even though the items are cool. Yeah. But what's really weird about Nightfire's, like, campaign is it plays like Thief. Like, it's weird. Like, you have multiple ways you can do something. You're sneaking around, or you can just go guns. Like, it's very interesting. Yeah. It's cool. But I think a lot of games, the buy-in for the difficulty of controls is a feature. And also just the difficulty, like, I have basically every emulator on my computer, right? Yeah. So I'm like, oh, I'll try this old game. I download it, I start it, I play it, right? If you've never run an emulator before and you're like, I'm gonna play the original Ultima, here's my magic, you're like, wait, okay, why is it not running? And then you learn there's something called an emulator. Okay, how do you download an emulator? And then, like, it's a nightmare, right? Yeah. So I think that's part of it as well, there's just a lot to figure out. But I would like someday, you know how...
I wonder if this happens with sports.
How so?
Like old sports, we just don't play them anymore because they're like outdated and weird and people don't know. And people only play the greats, but there's actually other old sports which are really good. And if you just play them, you have fun with them.
Well, I think like movies have stabilized somewhat. Yeah. And I think video games will probably fairly soon, actually, because the last 10 years, like if it was 2011, and you said 10 years ago we were playing like Daggerfall, right? Yeah. You're like, Daggerfall to Skyrim is about 10 to 15 year difference, right? Yeah. But now 15-year difference from Skyrim is Skyrim. Like, it hasn't changed. So I think there just hasn't been the same innovations whether for good or bad, but there just hasn't been the same changes. And things have stabilized. Like Gothic, you would play without the mouse. It's a RPG like Skyrim.
Yeah.
You'd play WASD and the arrow keys.
Yeah.
And it... I actually quite like the control scheme. It takes a lot to get used to, but once you get used to it, it's actually quite nice because you don't have to. Because the mouse is kind of a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
Whereas you're just kind of like controlling a tank in like Gothic. It's once you get used to it, it's actually quite comfortable. And I think what happened was the developers tried to come up with the most comfortable way to play the game they could think of, and there wasn't the standard as heavily weighing down on them of using the mouse and WSD. Yeah. So they're able to come up with something non-standard. But it means that the best thing about standard play is you can jump from game to game. But when you have something that actually is best for the game, it takes way more buy-in from the player to jump into. And I think it's like on the opposite end of the spectrum, Dark Souls has a fairly unique control scheme, like all these Souls games, and like including like Elden Ring and Bloodborne and all that. They have a kind of unique control scheme, which annoys me because I would rather they just have a standard normal RPG control scheme because it's like I don't want to have to learn a whole control scheme just for one game. Right? Yeah. So it is a little bit more fiddly, but I'm not convinced it's actually like more usable than a normal RPG's control scheme either. I think it's kind of a strange mix of like it's worse and it's different. Yeah. And I don't know. At least they let you change the key bindings. Yeah. So I do that all the time when I play them. But it's
one of my biggest problems with Dark Souls games is they're designed primarily for controller.
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure. I was wondering if they're designed for keyboard.
They're designed for controller.
They don't feel like they're designed for controller. It's very awkward on controller.
They are designed for controller.
Like, okay, you know what the jump button is in Dark Souls?
F.
Well, like on a
I use controller so little, I have no idea.
Okay, there isn't one. You press. So there's a button. If you hold it down, you run. If you press it, you jump back. If you press it in a direction, you roll. If you hold it down so you run, and then you tap it quickly while you're running, then you jump. One button does 4 things. And so for the first time I played Dark Souls, I didn't know you could jump. And I got all the way to the gargoyles, not knowing you could jump. And then I lost track of the game. I started a new copy, and now that I knew I could jump, and I was traveling, it was so much easier to do the game. Yeah. I was like, wow, you can actually get places. Yeah. Because for instance, there's an item there's like a bridge, and beneath the bridge, there's a ledge. And on that ledge is an item. Yeah. So to get to that item, I fell off the bridge, grabbed the item, then walked off the bridge, died. But I kept the item, but I lost all my souls, right? Yeah. But you can just hop to the ledge, grab the item, and then hop. I was like, wow, this is like a puzzle to get to the item without... You have to maximize your soul loss and gain. Yeah. It's like, no, you can just jump over there and grab it. Yeah. And I didn't even know there's a jump button in the game. And I didn't know there's a run button either. So I was like walking everywhere, and I was like, man, this like corridor full of fireballs, you just have to take half your health here. Like, yeah. Or like the gargoyle fight. I was like, you can't put space between you and the gargoyle. I need a breather, but I can't get a breather because the gargoyle is too fast. It's like, how do you win this game? And the difficulty, it's kind of like when we started Minecraft. Yeah. We didn't know that you could press shift to avoid falling off ledges. And we didn't know that for months or even a year or something like that. So we were kind of flexing on each other by building above ground builds because we're like, look how carefully I was able to like extend out a ledge. Yeah. But it also made exploring the underground way more tense in an interesting way because you'd be afraid of falling off a ledge and dying from fall damage or falling into lava. So you'd actually put down minecart rails so that you could ride a minecart so you wouldn't have a chance of falling off the ledge.
I have, in mod packs, I have a fundamental hatred for gravestone mods. Yeah. Especially when contrived, combined with the Feed the Beast /back, which teleports you to where you died. Yeah. But even then, it's like, oh, my grave is in a hard place to reach, like it's in the void, or, oh, it's by some lava. Yeah. And like there are certain packs where you don't want to deal with that. But it's like, when I played Minecraft originally, it's, all right, I need to go out into the world and gather some resources. Now, I'm going to go to someplace dangerous, and I have a set of full diamond armor. However, I need this actually for this different thing. I'm going to leave it behind. I'm going to wear my leather armor. Yeah. And I'm going to bring the resources I need, so I'm going to bring some bread. I'm not going to bring all my bread. I'm not going to bring my backpack, because yes, it could carry more resources, but I could potentially lose that, because I have to go really far to get this stuff. And gravestone mods or the /back mods actually remove this. Yeah. And when they're together, I hate that even more. It's like, all right, the /back, I'll let you have that if you explode like a pinata and your stuff can fall into the void or can fall into lava and you'll get some of your stuff back. Or the gravestone, you still have to make your way back to the gravestone and it's a difficult journey. You can die multiple times and it's frustrating. But we have both. You might as well just keep inventory on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, you may as well at that point.
And keep inventory. Good God. I experienced this when I was younger. And keep inventory I dislike now, but what I used to do is I would just die to teleport back home.
Yeah. No, I'd always get annoyed at you. I'd be like, this is why we don't have to keep inventory. Because we'd have like this, okay, we're lost in this Doors dimension. We have to have an epic journey back. And then you're just like, no, I'll just die.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what are you doing? Yeah. And I think I've become, I used to be like just, you die, your gear spews everywhere. If you get to it in time, you get to it in time. If you don't, you don't. I think I've become, and maybe it's because of the mod pack, it depends on the mod pack, of course. But there's nothing more frustrating than dying fairly close to your spawn, right? And your gear's there, but it has a 5-minute timer before it expires. And then there's like a wall of enemies that every time you try to walk through them, they kill you, and you just watch your gear slowly disappearing every time you respawn as you try to get over. So I was like, I'm just going to do the gravestone mod. So it's still hard to get over there. I still have to deal with the enemies, but I can at least get over there and get it. But I think it was also, when I started using gravestone mod more, was when I was unable to use my arms that much. Yeah. And I think it does depend on your circumstances, right? You're like, if you have less time to play each day, and it hurts you a lot more to do, you're going to play differently than... On the other hand, I read that comment once, I think it was on Reddit somewhere, but then the guy had a great point, which was, things that are meaningful and fun are meaningful and fun. Yeah. So don't sacrifice them just because you don't have as much time. Just play less, but do it, because it's like, aren't you having fun? The goal isn't to skip that section, right? Like, if it is fun, keep it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't have enough time anymore to play D&D once a week.
Yeah.
It's like, play it once a month.
Yeah. But it doesn't mean, okay, you're playing it once a month so you get 4 times the XP. It's like, no, you enjoy D&D. You don't enjoy D&D with 4 times the XP.
Yeah.
Now, if you enjoy D&D with 4 times the XP, go ahead. Mm-hmm. But it's like, I only play once a month, therefore we're going to have it go 4 times as fast. It's like, no. You enjoy D&D.
Yeah.
So play D&D. Don't just play D&D less often, but still do the thing you enjoy. Don't change it to make up for the fact that you're playing it less. Yeah. Because the goal is not to get through X levels of D&D per month. It's to have X amount of fun while you're playing D&D. Yeah. For whatever time period that is. Which is the same reason I don't think like an easy mode in a game like Dark Souls for the most part really makes sense, because it's like, well, I want to see the whole game. It's like, you don't get to see the game if you're not playing the game. Yeah. Like you want to experience it, right? Like,
story mode rears this ugly head.
The game of Dark Souls and the fun of Dark Souls is losing over and over and over again. And if you put it on easy mode, you're not playing Dark Souls. Now I can see, like, look, my reaction time is half that of a normal human. I've just got a disability. That's just what it is. I almost think like a slider that's like a frame rate sort of thing, but not frame rate, but like a game tick slider, right? Yeah. So it's like, okay, Dark Souls will run at half speed. Like, that would almost be that would maybe be a
well, so the accessibility thing is
what did that
Dead Cells does this,
but also Rogue Legacy 2. It actually has a slow motion mode.
Well, so what Dead Cells does is they don't have a difficulty. Like, the game gets more and more difficult as you play. Yeah. But Dead Cells says, all right, so we have 2 options. You can modify the game. If you modify the game, it does do certain things, and we're going to punish you for modifying. Yeah. However, you can also go to options, and you can change the accessibility. Because realize that not everyone has the same abilities as everyone else, and people still want to play the game. And there's no shame in messing with the accessibility. Yeah. But they don't call it difficulty, they call it accessibility. And that psychologically makes you go, well, do I really need that?
Yeah. Well, actually, that worked for me with Rogue Legacy 2, because when I was playing, my hands were in a ton of pain, right? Yeah. But I could play the game mostly, except I couldn't do the mid-air shooting, because you had to, like, snap hit the controller in the direction you wanted to shoot. And those quick motions hurt.
What? Back of my skull just buzzed, like, right around here. Yeah. It's like fluid was going through it or something. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry.
It was like the microwave gun was getting tested.
Yeah, it's like really distracting. It's like sound in the back of my skull that I could feel.
Weird. So you'd like flick the control rapidly to fire in midair. But I couldn't do that rapid flick because it would hurt. But there's an option where it's like you go into slow-mo when you're in midair. Yeah. So I switched to that, and then I could just gently aim the direction I need to aim so I didn't hurt my fingers. Yeah. And I tried to keep it as short a time frame as I could on the accessibility setting, because I still wanted to play the game. It's just, I was like, I can't physically do this, so I'll change it. So Celeste does that as well. It has some options for that sort of thing. And Darkest Dungeon does it interestingly. It's not so much accessibility, but when they introduced corpses to the game, some people hated corpses. They were like, this sucks. You ruined the whole game. I loved it before you had the corpses. But the developers at Red Hook were like, no, corpses are our vision. They're exactly what we want. But it like completely split the community. Like, it was super controversial. So what they did is they basically made it, you have to go into like the settings menu, and then it's like, okay, and then there's like advanced settings, and then it clicks like, are you sure you want to go to advanced settings? This is only for players that know what they're doing. You're like, yes. And then it's like, okay, remove corpses. And it's like, if you press this isn't what we intended for the game. It will change all the balance. It'll break everything. But if you really want to, you can turn it off. And so they basically made it hard to find, hard to do, but you can still do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of a nice way to do it as well. It's like, look, we're clearly telling you this is not the way the game's meant to be played, but we're giving you the option, which I think is nice of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Dark Souls could have an easy mode potentially, but it'd have to be like, accessible.
I think we tied up the old versus new.
Yeah, I actually want to maybe.
There's one thing I want to talk about, which is very interesting. I'm curious.
Okay, but this ties into the old versus new. If that's if like maybe this can wrap it off, because I was thinking we just talked a lot about media. We talked about video games. We talked about books. We talked about movies, and I at least think we talked in a way that is interesting to listen to, in a way that talking about a specific play-by-play of a book or a movie or a game wouldn't be interesting to listen to. Or like someone telling you about their D&D campaign isn't interesting. Or someone telling you about their Dota game isn't interesting, right? Like that sort of thing. And we've talked
telling you about how they play Heroes Mind Magic.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. And the theory we'd come up with before is that it's not interesting because you're not gaining anything of value if they're just telling you about like. And then there was this goblin, and so the cleric said, I'm going to cast Fireball, but it's like, oh wait, he didn't have Fireball, even though he had gotten the staff of Fireball from like, it doesn't add value to me because I wasn't there, right?
Yeah.
But I was thinking about it a bit more, and I think I've come up with a better explanation for it. And it actually encompasses, we're talking about dreams are bad, but it also allows you to determine what will be bad ahead of time and know why it will be bad, and also how to talk about it in a way that isn't bad.
Yeah.
So this is my sort of grand unification theory, which is art in motion is only valuable to the person in motion. So if you see a painting, right, that is beautiful beyond measure, right, you don't go to someone and say, so I looked at the top left corner and there was some green paint. Then I looked at the middle and there was some red paint. Like, you don't do that, right?
Yeah.
You say...
Unless you're a massive nerd.
Yeah. But you go to them and you say, it was so beautiful, I cried. And the person goes, I have to see that paint, right?
Yeah.
But you don't give them the play-by-play of your experience.
Yeah.
You tell them what resulted from that experience.
Yeah.
So for D&D, you say, we had the funniest game last night. D&D is amazing. And you go, oh, I gotta try out D&D. You don't go into like all the little like minutia there, right?
Or if you are going to go into that minutia, you make an animation like I did with my Death by Custerly.
Well, what you do is the same thing you do with a painting, right? You're like, I saw the Mona Lisa. She's got this like Da Vinci was a genius. Like, I don't know how he made her. It look like she's smiling, but she's not smiling. There's something she knows that I don't know. The color choice, even though it's muted, it pops. It sticks in your mind forever, right? That's you describe the art. You don't so you'd say D&D was the funniest thing ever. It was like a Scooby-Doo episode. It was like, there was people making traps and falling into their own traps. There was like, you do it like that, right? You don't, so what, and it's the same thing, you play the piano, or you dance, or you play a video game. Because I think those are the same experience. I think that's art in motion, right?
Yeah.
You don't tell them like, so I was playing the piano and, because what's going on in your mind, I think, when that happens, is you have this transcendent experience. Like, you're playing the piano, you're dancing with a girl you like, even let's say, okay. You have this transcendent experience that you simultaneously want to relive and you wish everyone else could have because it was so beautiful, right? And so you think, okay, this was so important to me, or you have a dream that had deep meaning, right? You're like, this was so important to me, these feelings were so important, that it must have been the things that happened that gave me those feelings. So I will tell people what happened, and then they will have those same feelings. But it's like, no. The feelings came first, and the experience was almost unnecessary. And so you can tell people the feelings. You can say, I had a dream where I had this feeling of love that wrapped around my heart, and I still feel warm like a week later, right? Like, this feeling of warmth is still in my heart.
Yeah.
Like, oh, that's really cool. But you don't say, so like, I was petting this dog, right? But his fur was so soft, right? Like, it was it was so soft that like, but there was also like butter, and like the butter was like, well,
on the dog.
Yeah, the butter's on, but it wasn't melting, right? It was like holding a stack of pancakes, and the pancakes, they smelled like when I was a kid, right? And so it just made me feel so happy. It's like, that doesn't quite, because you want people to feel that feeling, but they're not going to feel that feeling. They can't. It was a unique experience to you. You are the only person that felt that feeling, and your feeling is useless to anyone else but you. And that's true of all art and motion. Like, you're playing the piano and you're like, I was swept away by the music. It's like, cool, great. It's like, so I was pressing the F key, but then I was like, oh, I gotta press the G key, and then I press the A key, and then I press, it's like, nobody ever does that, right?
Yeah.
It's only really video games and dreams where people do that, I think, for the most part. And D&D. but people don't do that with piano or dance. They're like, and then I stuck out my leg to the left, and then I stuck out my leg to the right, but I had my knee tilted at like a 3-degree angle, and then I twist. So you talk about Dance with the Girl in My Life, best night of my life, right? That's what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, or you can even say, we had this super complex dance, you know, and it was a variant of the salsa, but it had like an extra kick to it, like you had to do like 3 kicks instead of 2 at the third step, or what I don't know, but you know, you can do that, but you don't try to give them your experience because you can't. That experience is yours, and I think it's kind of like we're desperately yearning to bridge this impossible gap, and the only way you can actually bridge it is with other art. You have to be like, you have to teach someone how to play the piano so they can feel that feeling.
Yes, or with D&D.
You're like, come to our campaign next week.
Well, come with your campaign, or the other way to do it is you literally have to become a storyteller.
Yeah.
And you have to tell the person the story. And they're not going to get the experience of playing D&D, but if it's the story you're interested in sharing, because sometimes the story can be good, you have to be a storyteller. You can't give them a play-by-play of the D&D. You actually have to tell them the story. And to tell someone a story, you have to cut out a lot of details, because there's a lot of unnecessary minutia in D&D.
And, well, I think the problem with that, though, is D&D really isn't a story generator. Like, I don't think it is, really. So you get people, because I think nowadays D&D has become this thing where people are like, I'm ready to hear the story. I'm going to go to D&D and hear the story, right? I was like, no, you will roll dice and you will move on a hex grid and you will be happy. So, I mean, there's different ways to play D&D as well. But I think it's where people have heard, like, they've read, you know, Dragonlance and the Lost Realms, and they're like, I want the story. So they go for the story. But it's like, it's a bit more than that.
Yes.
But you can tell a story. But I think even then, it's almost better just to be like, come to D&D next time. Unless, because is your D&D story going to be Lord of the Rings? Like, does it have the same mythos? Now, Malazan, it can.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a D&D story. It's possible. And maybe an event is just so perfect, slapstick or love story or whatever, you can draw something from it. But that won't give you the experience of D&D. That will give you a good story.
Yes, and that's why I'm trying to get at you.
Yeah, because that...
I am not saying do not tell stories, is basically what I'm getting at, because you're being a little dismissive.
Okay.
And I feel like stories can be created by situations.
Yeah.
The fact of the matter, though, is you have to tell the story, not the play-by-play.
Yeah, but that's... Yeah, okay, that's a good point. What you're saying, essentially, to clarify for me and make sure I got it, is if you want someone to share that beautiful experience of art in motion, they have to do the art in motion. So you want that experience with D&D, they have to do the D&D. However, if you want to tell a story that was great, then you can tell a story that was great. But you are not giving them the art in motion, and any attempt to give them the art in motion will make your story worse.
Yes.
You can't have both. Like, you can't be like, I think that's that right there. Yeah. And so I think with Here's My Magic, when we were talking about it this whole time, we never said, so then I hired 4 gnolls, and I went and I took out a serpentfly hive, got 3 serpentflies, and this is the crazy thing though. There was a second serpentfly hive next to the first. So then I went to the second serpentfly hive and
feel an intense rage that jocks must feel when they see a nerd existing in the wild.
Yeah.
And you see him in the hallway, and you just know it's right to beat this loser up.
But I didn't have enough gold to upgrade the serpentflies into dragonflies, but I had an extra bit of wood because I had gotten...
That's why jocks beat up nerds.
Well, I think it's because the nerds are experiencing that art in motion individually, and so they're trying to express it with the world, whereas the jocks are experiencing the art in motion as a popular culture. So if a jock is experiencing football or basketball, everyone else is experiencing it too. So they don't need to say the words. Like, everyone is on the same page. You have this bond, right? And if you're watching like popular media, like you all go to the latest Mission Impossible or whatever, right? You all experience that art in motion together. But the nerd is the only one on Earth playing Morrowind or Ultima 4, right?
Yeah.
So they want other people to bond with, because you're like, the jock goes up, it's like, good game, man. You're like, yeah, that was a great football game. And then you have bonded over that shared emotion, which is a very hard thing to do, right?
Yeah.
But then you're like, oh man, I want to tell people about my Ultima 4 experience, because then we can bond over that emotion. It's like, no, that's not how you do it. You have to go up to people and say, please play Ultima 4. That's how you bond. And then once they play Ultima 4...
Please play Ultima 4.
Then when you go up to them, you're like, that game taught me more about morality than going to church every week for the last 6 years, right? And then you're like, yeah, man, no, that was something special. Thank you for telling me to play that, right? That's how you do it. But they're not aware, because they're, by definition, they're not in a social setting where they can do that bond. Which means nowadays, I think you can do that with video games. That doesn't mean, but this is like the platonic nerd and the platonic jock that I'm talking about here, right? Because a nerd doesn't play video games anymore. A nerd like tortures animals or something. Like, they're always doing something that's outside the realms of the common.
Thanks, Warhammer minis.
Yeah. Well, even that's, I think, getting a bit more acceptable. But yeah, Warhammer's a good one. But basically a nerd does whatever women aren't doing.
Yes, paints Warhammer minis.
Yeah, for now. Or a nerd is...
Well, even then, women will paint Warhammer Maze. They will not play the tabletop.
Yeah.
I have never, like maybe in a few videos I've seen it, but in the wild, in actual life, I have never seen a woman play a tabletop war game.
Yeah, but like a nerd is like, oh man, game of Nomic last weekend. 3 different subsections to the same law. Got me 1 extra point. And then I was able to get a second vote. I was playing Aurora 4X, and you know
Please, stop. Have mercy. I'm not in the...
I designed a spaceship engine that could leave the solar system with 3% more efficiency than my previous best 10 designs. Actually, that would be kind of interesting. Like, that's almost that almost goes so hyper-specific, you're like, okay, what'd you do with the spaceship design?
Yes.
I'm kind of curious now. like, that starts... The problem with Aurora 4X, for anyone who's ever played it, it doesn't exist anymore, but I haven't played it since this problem was fixed. It was made in C++, I think, or C++. And C++ doesn't allow you to scale windows, which meant when I played it, I couldn't see the bottom of the window, because it's basically this ridiculously large spreadsheet is the whole game, right?
Yeah.
But the bottom of the spreadsheet was cut off, so I couldn't do certain actions in the game, like hire new admirals or like research
nerd.
new materials. So, but the new version's written in C#, so you can rescale the windows.
No, stop, please.
This is a true story.
I do not care.
This is a very deep and meaningful.
I don't care.
This is a very deep core experience of my reality, and I want to share it with others. But what I should say instead is, look, if you want to play the